Will the meeting please come to order? Today is Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. This is the 18th regular meeting of the current term of the Metropolitan Council of Nashville and Davidson County. Will all members of the council, as well as the public, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation is being offered this evening by the Reverend Susan Spieth. She is the pastor of the Arlington United Methodist Church, and Reverend Spieth is the guest of District 13 Council member Russ Bradford. Go ahead.
Shall we pray? Living and loving God, we thank you and praise you for all that you have done, are doing, and will do in us, through us, and for us. You are the lover of our souls, and we are deeply grateful for your abiding grace. Be with this body tonight as they deliberate and consider the work ahead for the city of Nashville. Give them foresight, insight, and oversight so that they may be good stewards for the people of this city. And strengthen us for the days to come, so that we will be found faithful to your call upon our lives. And may you abide with each one of us as we go from this place this evening. We ask all of this and more in the name of our God. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated, and thank you, Reverend Spieth. We have been saddened to learn recently of the passing of two former members of the Metro Council. Last month, the Honorable Don Majors, a two-term council member, passed, and Councilmember Gamble and other members kindly brought a resolution to honor his service to Nashville and express our condolences. I sent a letter of condolence to the family of Mr. Majors, and now will sadly do the same for the family of the Honorable Edith Taylor Langster, who passed on June 30th. Ms. Langster served 3 terms on the Metro Council and also served in the State House of Representatives and as the first Black female patrol officer with the Metro Police Department. We are grateful for her service. We ask that all former council members and their families please do stay in touch with our council office so that we have the opportunity to share in both your happy milestones and sad news. Also, on a sad note, I want to express the council's condolences to the Metro Clerk's team on the loss of their colleague, Raven Mish, who passed week before last. The clerk's office is integral to the procedural work of this body, and we are grateful also for Ms. Mish's service. It is National Parks and Recreation Month, colleagues, and our park system is one of the most beloved and visible aspects of our Metro government. So I want to extend the council thanks to everyone serving in our Parks Department. And I want to encourage council members and members of the community to be sure they are following parks on social media and signed up for newsletters for all that this special month will hold and all the great programs and opportunities for all ages all year round. Remember also to engage and participate with your parks friends groups. As we have conversations in the community about multimodal transportation, this body is mindful that safe routes and access to parks are important. Too many of our parks and greenways remain accessible only by car. This week, our nation celebrates its independence at a time when the foundation of our democracy is facing unprecedented challenges. Today, or tonight rather, is the last day or time, July 2nd, to register to vote for the August 1st county general and state and federal primary election. And October 7th is the deadline to register to vote in the November 5th state and federal general election. All elections matter. So we call on the public to please vote. It is your voice. And follow the Davidson County Election Commission closely for all the dates and details on early voting times and locations. Most Metro government offices and facilities, including the council office, will be closed on the 4th of July, this Thursday. So we ask citizens to please remember that individual use of fireworks is not permitted anywhere in Davidson County, and encourage you to please enjoy professional and permitted fireworks displays downtown and around the community. Be safe, stay hydrated, keep your pets secure indoors, and have fun celebrating with neighbors, friends, and family. All right, without objection, we will suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes of June 18th? Okay, there is a motion properly seconded, and so without objection, the minutes of the meeting of June 18th are approved. Okay, next we are moving into section E of our agenda, appointees and nominees. This portion of the agenda shares all persons that were scheduled to appear before the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee this evening. No votes will be taken by the body in this section of the agenda other than for deferrals. Re-referrals back to the committee will be by rule as part of the council's new 2 meetings process for all elections and confirmations. Chair Sepulveda, committee report, please. First, for any deferrals, if there are any.
We have some withdrawals, Vice Mayor.
Okay, so with no deferrals, I'll just say then, Chair Sepulveda, if you'd give a brief summary report on persons on this agenda who either withdrew themselves from nomination or were interviewed by your committee and will be referred back to your committee for confirmation consideration at your regular meeting of July 16th. So feel free to indicate those withdrawals first as part of that report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Robert Eden, Josh Essler, Alexander Janko, Brian Mansfield, Marcia Masula, Shannon Sanders, Mike Smardak were all withdrawn.
Okay. Ms. Sepulveda, just for clarity for the community and the body, I have Robert Deaton, Josh Easler, Alexander Janko, Marcia Masula, Shannon Sanders, and Mike Smardick, who were nominees for the Nashville Music, Film, and Entertainment Commission, are all withdrawn.
And Brian Mansfield.
And as well, Mr. Mansfield, Brian Mansfield. Okay, all right. So that then, if you would continue your report by indicating those folks who were indeed interviewed by you.
The following were interviewed by the Rules Committee and received a unanimous approval for re-referral: Anastasia Brown, Lynette Kraft, Roz Holmes, Gina Miller, Mo Sabri, Stephanie Silverman.
Okay. And then as well, is there something to share about the Arts Commission as far as being interviewed and re-referred?
Maida Yu was deferred for 1 meeting.
Okay. All right. So do we need to take up that deferral to a vote? Okay. Per Ms. Darby, we're just going to consider that in this section of the agenda, not requiring any votes, to be an automatic deferral. And then again, as I stated earlier, all the other folks that Chair Sepulveda mentioned will automatically be re-referred to committee for the meeting of July 16th, when an election will be held for the Nashville Music, Film, and Entertainment Commission to fill those 3 vacancies. Okay. Chair Sepulveda, we are then rolling right into committee reports on appointees that are in the second step of your committee's 2-meeting process. First for deferrals, if there are any, please.
There are no deferrals.
Okay. Next for persons who received a vote of recommendation by the committee, and hopefully a consolidated motion for those same appointees, please.
For the Airport Authority, reappointment of Jocelyn Stevenson for a term expiring on April 5th, 2031. Rules voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. For the Arts Commission, appointment of Evan Brown for a term expiring on April 26, 2026. Rules voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. For the Arts Commission, appointment of Jesse Rosenblum for a term expiring on March 14, 2026. Rules voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And for the Tourism and Convention Commission, appointment of Jackie Marushka for a term expiring on June 30, 2027. Rules voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. With that, I would move for approval.
Okay, properly moved and seconded without objection. We will be voting on these items all together. Is there any discussion on this collective slate of appointees for confirmation? Mr. Bradford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. So I'm standing up tonight in voting in opposition of the Airport Authority appointment of Ms. Jocelyn Stevenson, and I'm going to explain why. So last summer when the state was discussing taking over our airport board.
Mr. Bradford, if I may,
Go ahead.
let's take this time then to remove that from the
I
collective
would like to
slate
move,
of appointees.
let's do that, because I'm
Okay.
going to talk about this
Okay,
one.
and then I will recognize you subsequently. Okay, so colleagues, for F1 Airport Authority, Mr. Bradford has requested that Ms. Stevenson be removed from the collective vote or motion. Without objection, Chair Sepulveda will amend that motion. Okay, any objection? Okay, alrighty. Is there anyone else seeking to be recognized for purposes of discussion or to remove a potential appointee? No. Okay, so the vote that is then before us with an amended motion is for Arts Commission, Evan Brown, Arts Commission, Jesse Rosenblum, Tourism and Convention, Jackie Marushka. Okay, properly moved and seconded. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Okay, and so now it is back to you, Mr. Bradford, on item F1 regarding the Airport Authority.
Thank you. So as I was saying earlier, when the state was going through and talking about taking over our airport authority, there were discussions on the board about the board coming together and voicing its opposition and stating that the board should remain under Metro Authority. Ms. Stevenson blocked that effort. When the state law passed and went into effect, Ms. Stevenson refused to call the board together, even though the FAA had clearly stated that they only would recognize our board and its authority. Then when the board finally came together, she chose not to show up. I believe as we are making these confirmations to these appointments, we should be selecting individuals who not only wish to serve our city, but will stand up for it and will represent our city's interests, not the interests of state lawmakers, state lobbyists, or anyone else. I may be the only person voting no tonight because many in this chamber haven't had to deal with what my community has to deal with on a daily basis. But I'm asking my colleagues to think about if this was your community. If your community has been begging the mayor's office for months for representation on a board that directly impacts them, that will directly take their property when it's time for the airport to grow. Ask yourself, would you want someone from your community at that table representing your community that's going to stand up for your community and your city, and it's not going to be a pawn or an automatic stamp of approval for this airport CEO who cares nothing about anything outside of that airport's boundaries? So I'm asking my colleagues to vote down this nomination and send a message to the mayor's office that it's time that this board have representation from the community that is most directly impacted by it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next, Ms. Toombs. So we are on a motion to confirm the reappointment of Jocelyn Stevenson to the Airport Authority. And so we are discussion on that motion to confirm the reappointment. Ms. Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I have the pleasure of knowing Ms. Stevenson personally. I have had the pleasure throughout my legal career to view her as a friend and a mentor. She is one of the finest attorneys in this city. She is known for her leadership. She has led many organizations from the Tennessee Bar Association to serving on the Airport Authority as the board chair. She is thoughtful. She is open-minded. To suggest that a board member should have involved herself in a political fight is wrong. Folks serve on our boards and commissions because they love Nashville and they want to give back to Nashville. To politicize our boards and commissions and to require that our boards and commission members get involved in the nastier aspects of politics is wrong and unduly burdensome. I urge my colleagues to confirm Ms. Stevenson because she deserves to be reappointed. She is an excellent leader and a fine example and an excellent representation for this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Toombs. Is anyone else seeking to be recognized for discussion on this motion? Okay. Ms. Darby, knowing that we have a no vote, may we still do this by voice, or how do we go about this?
We did pass by 21 votes.
Okay. Okay. This is 21 votes, and so that can likely be achieved by voice. So let's just try it by voice to start, please. Yep, Ms. Porterfield, go ahead. You're recognized for a point of order. Sure.
Thank you so much. Is it possible for us to call for a deferral so that we can get more information? I think both colleagues made some very valid points, and I think it would behoove us to get more information around the circumstances so that we could be better informed before we make this vote. So is it too late to call for a deferral, to move forward a deferral?
Well, I would say that we concluded discussion and that we did move to the vote. And I was making inquiry with Ms. Darby particular to the vote. I appreciate the sentiment there, but I would suggest that we go ahead and proceed with
Thank you,
the
Vice
vote.
Mayor.
Because I think we've moved into that portion of our process. And so, okay. Would all those in favor of the reappointment of Jocelyn Stevenson please say aye? Any voting no? Okay, let's go on the board, please, Mr. Clerk. I've got to take that up separately because it's distracting me now on how to deal with this, if I could, please. Okay, all votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Okay, this required 21 votes, so Ms. Joycelyn Stevenson is reappointed to the Airport Authority. We are grateful to Ms. Stevenson, Mr. Evan Brown, Ms. Jessie Rosenblum, and Jackie Marushka for their willingness to serve our city. If you have returned to join us in chambers this evening, yes, ma'am, Ms. Sepulveda?
Vice Mayor, I don't know if we took a vote on the rest of the nominees. I thought we just pulled one off of consent.
No, we did vote on the consolidated slate prior. I did not recognize those folks because we had one pending motion remaining. So now, having disposed of our last and separate vote, I am now recognizing all of these folks together. So if you have returned to join us in chambers this evening, which is optional, and were confirmed this evening, if you would please stand to be recognized for the council's thanks, please. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Stevenson. Okay, members, that concludes Section F, confirmations. And now we move to Section G of our agenda, nominations. Members will have received a memo from me on the 17th of June regarding one vacancy on the Auditorium Commission. So nominations to fill one vacancy with a term expiring June 30th, 2027, with an election to be held on August 6th to the Auditorium Commission. If there are members seeking to nominate someone from the Auditorium Commission, if you would please enter the queue to do so. Again, members received a memo from me on the 17th. Okay. Ms. Allen, you are recognized.
Thank you. I'd like to renominate Jerry Pentecost.
Okay, Ms. Allen has nominated Jerry Pentecost. Okay. Okay, all right. Are there any other members seeking to make a nomination to the Auditorium Commission? Okay, seeing none, we have one nomination from Ms. Allen of Mr. Pentecost. If you would confer with Mr. Clerk, and we'll make sure we have his information. Okay, that concludes the nomination section of the agenda. We are now moving into public comment. Okay. Members of the public wishing to speak may sign up on the council meeting sign-up sheet at the Metro Clerk's office counter for public comment on the day of a scheduled meeting. Public comment sign-up for council meetings begins at 5 and ends at 6. Public comment is limited to 20 minutes total at council meetings, and each speaker is allowed up to 2 minutes to speak. State law requires that we prioritize persons speaking on items on this agenda, and we ask members of the public to be mindful and consider not using this public comment time for agenda items that will otherwise have a required public hearing. Okay, with that, our public comment time is open. And first is Adam Nicholson. He is speaking on agenda item 88. This is the Transit Improvement Program, BL 2024-427. Go ahead. Welcome.
Great, thank you. I'm Adam Nicholson. I live in the Glencliff neighborhood off Nolensville Pike, and I've been volunteering with Transit Now Nashville for 14 years. I want to thank the council on behalf of myself for supporting BL 2024-427 and the process that will allow Nashville to invest more in transit access. So currently Nashvillians drive an average of 42 miles a day. That's the most of any city in the whole country. Only 19% of the city has sidewalks. So being able to safely walk to a bus stop would have great health benefits, much less walking anywhere. And better transit access makes the city more affordable. So right now, when we combine transportation costs with living expenses, there's no affordable part of the city left. That's according to the Tennessee Department of Highways or Housing. So better transit options and more walkability will help all of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Nicole Valentine, also speaking on agenda item 88, the Transportation Improvement Program. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Good evening, and thank you to the body here that serves our city, and thank you to those who have supported the transit plan. I live in the Napier community and speak often about my community, and I wanted to share two examples of the need for the transit plan. One of the teens who's in the Power Youth program was at the bus depot about 3 weeks ago. I'll say real quick, the unique opportunity for the Power Youth program is that they get to come into community with nonprofits and businesses, but you also get to step into their life and sometimes help support them in areas they need support. And so she felt really comfortable sharing with us that there was an incident that happened at the bus depot. And had there been more security, I don't think this incident would have happened. And so I don't want to go into detail, but that's one of the benefits of this transit plan. A second is that many of the students who live in the Napier community attend McGavick High School. And if you know anything about Lebanon Road and McGavick Pike, there's a Walgreens right there. So for my neighbors who miss the bus, they have to get off the bus there and walk to McGavick High School. That's a long walk. So there's no longer a bus that's right in front of the school. So this plan would also increase bus access there. So just two of many, many examples. And so thank you so much for the support of this plan.
Thank you. Next is Ashley Northington, also speaking in support of agenda item 88, the Transportation Plan, BL 2024-427. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Ashley Northington. I live in the Cane Ridge or Antioch area. I am honored to stand before all of you tonight as a fourth-generation Nashvillian, a proud Davidson County homeowner, and the chair of Moving Forward, a group of business and community leaders focused on securing dedicated funding for robust transit. I'm here tonight to thank you for your support and recognition of a critical issue facing Nashvillians. Transit presents us with a golden opportunity to re-envision, re-engineer, and reinvest in our community in a way that truly works for everyone. It is just one lever that we can pull to put more residents on a pathway to prosperity, whether that pathway is traveled by cycle, bus, car, or foot. As you well know, the plan before you tonight is a foundational first step towards a better, more sustainable, more connected, more efficient future, a future engineered in the best interest for all of us. Thank you for your previous acknowledgement and support on this very important topic. Thank you to all of the 32 co-sponsors of this bill, and I urge you for your continued support.
Thank you. Next is Vonda McDaniel. She is speaking on agenda item 36, resolution 2024-559 regarding amendments to the charter. Welcome.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Good evening. My name is Vonda McDaniel. I live in historic Enchanted Hills, and Councilmember Kimbrough is my councilperson. I'm here to talk just a little bit about RS 2024-559. Last week, I was able to talk a little bit to John Rutherford about the age of voting and what I thought about it. And I said, well, I think that Tennessee has one of the worst voting engagement and turnout records of just about any place in the state. I think that we register folks to vote at 18 and then tell them they can't run for office until they're 25. I said, to me, that's kind of like getting a gym membership and then not going until 3 years later. I mean, you have to exercise that muscle. But then when I looked at the other things that you can do when you turn 18, you can sue someone, you can sign a contract, you can get married, you can buy property, you can do a number of things. And so it would seem that you would have ideas about good public policy in our city. And so that's why I come before you today in support of RS 2024-559. I want to thank Councilmember Rutherford and Weiner for bringing it forward, and I ask for your support.
Thank you. Next is Margot Ross, speaking on agenda item number 88, BL 2024-427, which is the Transportation Improvement Program. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you, members of the Metro Council, for being here today. My name is Margot Ross. I'm a recent and proud graduate of University School of Nashville, and I'm here today to speak in favor of Choose How You Move, Mayor O'Connell's transportation referendum that will appear on the November 5th ballot. And I wanted to share a personal story about how transit can affect the lives of kids like me. In about a month, I will leave Nashville for Charlottesville to start my career as a student at the University of Virginia. During my first few weeks of endless icebreakers, I have no doubt that I'll be proud to tell my new friends that I'm a Nashvilleian. But frankly, that wasn't always the case. In fact, up until I turned 16, I strongly disliked living here. And the reason for that was my ability to get anywhere depended on my mom's ability to drive me there. She worked a full-time job. Consequently, I thought that all Nashville had to offer were the things within a 5-minute vicinity of my home: the Green Hills Mall, the not yet renovated YMCA of yore, and the Hill Center. For fun, I would sometimes walk my dog with my mom on the shoulder of my neighborhood streets, or if we were feeling adventurous, drive 20 minutes to see a movie at the Bell Court. That changed when I got my driver's license. Thanks to my newfound ability to drive, I was introduced to the Nashville I know and love today. The Nashville of punk rock house shows, Moss Tacos, WeHo art crawls, and so much more. Nashville natives shouldn't have to wait until they can drive before they can experience everything it has to offer. In a city characterized by rapid growth, we need to act now so that come Thanksgiving, I can return to a Nashville that it's on its way to being more accessible, walkable, and most importantly, equitable. Thank you so much for your continued support of this referendum.
Thank you. Next is Howard Huckabee. Mr. Huckabee is here. Mr. Huckabee, are you with us to speak on agenda items 2, 3, and 4? These do have a zoning public hearing, but I understand from the sponsor he intends to defer that public hearing. So despite our usual request that people wait till the public hearing rather than using this public time, I do not see Mr. Huckabee present. Last call. Okay. That then concludes public comment. That is all of our signups for this evening. Okay, now we are on section I of our agenda, a rule of procedure. This is a proposed amendment to Rule 13 regarding filing deadlines and emergency items. Sponsor Benedict. Ms. Benedict, you are recognized to request your committee report, please. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Sorry for the delay. Committee reports, please.
Chair Sepulveda.
Rules voted for a one meeting deferral, 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you. So colleagues, we take up these rule of procedures typically as we do legislation. So we are going to apply Rule 8.1 here with the one meeting deferral in committee. We'll have a deferral by rule, but I will elevate, and I know Ms. Benedict will want me to share as well as Chair Sepulveda, that this will be deferred to our next meeting of July 16th. But in the interim, for purposes of discussion on this major change proposed, we will have a July 10th special called meeting of the Rules, Confirmations and Public Elections Committee at 5 p.m. July 10th in Committee Room 2. Okay? All right. Thank you. So this is deferred to the meeting of July 16th and will be discussed at the special called meeting on July 10th. Okay. All right. So now we are moving on to our public hearings. First is a resolution on public hearing. Spanish interpretation services are provided for Metro Council public hearings. This evening, we have Ms. Obando de Ruiz here as the interpreter. Ms. Ruiz, Obando de Ruiz, would you please share how you can help, please, ma'am?
Buenas tardes, voy a ser su intérprete en español para la sesión del día de hoy. Gracias.
Gracias, thank you, we appreciate you. Okay. For those wishing to speak this evening as part of any of our public hearings, whether for this first and only resolution or the numerous bills that will follow, please do state your name, but it is not required for you to provide your address. Just want to give a reminder there. You might want to tell us what neighborhood or area you live in or on what street or who your council member is. In lieu of your precise address if you do not wish to provide it. Okay, so first on public hearing in Section J is RS 2024-580, sponsor Coupon. This is a resolution exempting 55 units located at 160 2nd Avenue North from the minimum distance requirements for obtaining a short-term rental property not owner-occupied permit pursuant to the Metropolitan Code of Laws, Section 6.28.030B2D. Okay. Mr. Coupon, you are recognized, sir.
Committee reports, please.
Okay. I'll just go ahead and do that. Typically, we call for the public hearing first, but that's okay. Go ahead, Mr. Bradford.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public government operations and regulations. We voted 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. And now back to you, Mr. Coupon.
Well, now let's open the public hearing, please.
Okay. I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay. Seeing no one here in opposition, do those persons here in support wish to speak? Okay, they are indicating no. And so with that, Mr. Coupon, I declare the public hearing closed. And it is back to you, sir. Not for your committee report because you already gave it, but for a motion.
I'd like to move approval with a brief comment.
Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Madam President. So today I'm asking you to consider a 55-unit STR exemption, and I maintain my commitment to affordable housing. This property was damaged due to the 2020 bomb and on a street that was further damaged by the pandemic. In the recent weeks, we have tried to explore options for workforce housing or long-term housing, and unfortunately, due to the condition of the building, it's just not possible to finance. These applicants have worked hard with Metro Historic to preserve the historic nature of the building, and Metro Historic is in support of this project as well. So there's a historic component to this, but based on the damage and the cost to rehab this building, the only way to finance it is through short-term rentals, which would normally be permitted anywhere in the downtown code, but of course this is within 100 feet of Riverfront Park, which is why it's before us today. The good news is that the individuals that come and stay at these STRs will walk out of their building and step onto a brand new redeveloped Second Avenue where they will spend money, where we know 60% of our sales tax is generated from tourism, and they will buy drinks and liquor by the drink. A portion of that tax comes back to our general fund and our school system. So while it does not help our housing situation, it does help other ways to generate revenue for the city. And also STRs that occur downtown and in the downtown core take pressure off the neighborhoods and off residential areas where STRs may be more problematic. So there are multiple positives to this. And I want to reassure my colleagues that as the downtown district council person, I thoroughly vet these proposals. I explore all different options, but this one, there's no pathway with a long-term rent. And even if it was a long-term rent, that market rate would be so high, it wouldn't address the real need of our communities. Whereas an STR program wouldn't put money back in our economy, put money back in our pockets to spend on cost of living adjustments and schools and things that are really, really important. So I appreciate my colleagues' consideration. I open the floor to anybody that has questions, and I ask that my colleagues support this measure, and appreciate it very much.
Okay, we are back on a discussion of a motion to approve, properly seconded. And in order in the queue, first for discussion on the motion to approve, Mr. Bradford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. To those who have followed me since 2019, you'll probably be surprised I'm standing in favor of this legislation. As stated in my in committee, I'm not a big fan of non-owner occupied short-term rentals, especially in our residential neighborhoods, where we have some neighborhoods, entire blocks or mini hotels. But I also believe there are parts of Nashville where this type of housing makes sense. Second Avenue, it makes sense. This is a highly tourist area where you're very likely not going to have very many locals want to live here. And to the point Councilmember Koopman has made, these individuals who will be renting these short-term rentals will be providing much needed revenue to help these businesses on Second Avenue recover after the events of 2020. So I'm standing in favor. I believe that this is where non-owner short-term rentals make the most sense. Keep them here in downtown, keep them out of our suburban neighborhoods. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Cash, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Last time this was up, I voted against it. I got swept up. There was a really good speech that I still agree with. I still agree with the principle that we need to be on the lookout for where we can put long-term rentals and over short-term rentals. However, I think this is a good place for short-term rentals. It's making a Second Avenue property economically viable. It just doesn't make as much sense. Like a hotel could go there. So I'm supportive. I appreciate Councilmember Koopman in the interim looking at options and looking out for that principle that we do need more long-term housing. And I will support this.
Thank you, Mr. Cash. Mr. Huffman, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. For those that know me, also know that I am an ardent defender of those who just want some peace and quiet and who don't want short-term rental properties in their neighborhoods. We have several that are non-good faith actors in this community that cause a lot of problems. In some of our up-and-coming neighborhoods, such as Wedgwood and 12 South and those areas, I see the Twitter stories about people partying all late nights, and then you've got families that are nearby trying to put their kids to bed. This is not one of those situations. Councilmember Coopin has fully vetted this as a viable rehabilitation project for his district. I'm going to trust the word of the district council member here that this is going to be good. I agree with everything that Councilmember Bradford also said. Tourists need a place to stay, and tourists power this economy. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one else, Ms. Suara, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to go on record from the beginning of the term. I have been an abstain on all non-owner occupied short-term rentals. As an at-large, they're all over the place, and I don't want to be in the position of saying this is a good one, this is not a bad one. I remember when I ran the first time, the horrors of short-term rentals on neighborhood and how protecting the neighborhood was very important to me. So I will be abstaining on this one, and I will be abstaining on every short-term non-owner occupied STR. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else seeking discussion? Okay, seeing none, properly moved and properly seconded, recognizing that we can record abstentions, and we'll see otherwise. Let's move to a vote and see if we can do it by voice. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, if you keep your hands raised, so Mr. Clerk can please raise your hands high if you're in abstention, so Mr. Clerk can appropriately record you. I see 4 abstentions, Mr. Clerk. Okay. This resolution is approved. Okay, next we're going to move into bills on public hearing. All the translation services and instructions remain the same as for the earlier resolution for this public hearing section. So first is agenda item 2, and as I understand it, also 3, 4, and 5, all sponsor Rutherford. I am going to read Mr. Rutherford kind of the first among the captions, and then just indicate that the other ones apply the same, just for the record. This is BL 2023-56, sponsor Rutherford. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County by changing from AR2A and SP to SP zoning on properties located at 6419, 6423, and 6431 Pettis Road, and a portion of property located at 8001 Warbler Way, approximately 620 feet northeast of Nolensville Pike. This is 28.71 acres to permit 230 multifamily residential units and a fire station, all of which is described herein, and then additional companion bills, BL 2023-57 and BL 2023-58. BL 2023-59, and those are agenda items 2, 3, 4, and 5. Mr. Rutherford, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I will not be requesting a public hearing and instead move deferral of all 4 items to the first meeting in August.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, there is a motion to defer all 4 of these items. And again, Ms. Rutherford, I apologize, to the second meeting?
First meeting.
Of
August.
Of August, okay.
Our next public hearing.
To the first meeting of August, the next public hearing. It's properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this motion to defer to the first meeting in August? Seeing none, all in favor of the deferral motion, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay. All 4 of these items are deferred until the public hearing on August the 6th. Okay. Okay, next in the public hearing section of our agenda is Agenda Item 6. This is Ordinance BL 2024-187. Sponsors Horton, Evans Siegel, Vo, Benedict, Huffman, Welsh, Sepulveda, Cupin, Cortez, Bradford, and Spain. This is an ordinance amending Section 17.16.030 of the Metropolitan Code zoning regulations to amend the conditions for adaptive residential developments located in non-residential zoning districts where residential uses are permitted with conditions. Mr. Horton, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Okay. With that, let's see. I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Thank you. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing no one here in opposition, would those here in support seek to speak? Okay, go ahead. Please come forward and to the podium. Go ahead, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Scott Morton. I'm in Council Member Gamble's district. I will be brief. I just want to say thank you to the sponsors of this bill. This is a really great first step in opening up doors to providing more housing in our city and providing zoning solutions to really emphasize the critical need of our housing crisis. And so I just want to show my support and appreciation for the sponsors of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nancy Van Rees. I live in District 3 now and in the Marlin Meadows area of North Madison. I come today to speak in support of the substituted version of 187. Nashville needs 52,000 new homes by 2030. This legislation will expedite the entitlement process. Expedited entitlements ensure that projects can start and finish on schedule, preventing cost overruns and delays in delivering these much-needed homes. Streamlining entitlement processes can enhance overall government efficiency by reducing administrative burdens. As a former council member, I have experienced that communities want change to happen for them and not to them. And this legislation will adequately create the tools to both respect that desire and create housing more quickly. Predictable and expedited entitlements are attractive to investors who are rest assured that the projects won't be delayed unnecessarily. This can foster a more conducive environment for business growth and development. Planning staff has indicated in their own comments that removing the restriction would increase the number of parcels for potential housing development, but that those parcels are still primarily centered around corridors and commercial mixed-use areas, making them appropriate for housing. Overall, expediting entitlements is not just helpful, but essential. It optimizes processes, supports economic activity, enhances government efficiency, and improves responsiveness to business and public needs. It's a win-win for everyone, and everyone deserves a quality place to live. Thank you.
Thank you to the Honorable Ms. Van Rees. Welcome back to the chamber. Ms. Hawkins, you're recognized.
Good evening. Kim Hawkins. I'm at 2205 Natchez Trace in Councilman Cash's district, and I'm a partner at Hawkins Partners and have worked as a planner and landscape architect in the city for the last several decades. I appreciate and support the many council persons who are supporting this legislation. Since 2004, we've used adaptive residential code on a number of sites, allowing for thousands of housing units to be built in quadrants all over the city. We have also evaluated many other sites for adaptive residential that did not meet the current conditions as they are today. Whether those parcels were outside of the USD or whether they lacked majority frontage on an arterial or collector. Those sites would have also provided thousands of additional units that would now be allowed by this bill. Perhaps more importantly for today is that these sites often sit along multimodal corridors and along transit routes, allowing for not just housing, but also easy access through transportation to jobs, services, and schools. And for all of these reasons, I urge you to support this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no one else here to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. So it's back to you, Mr. Horton, for a motion, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval with a brief comment.
Is there a second? Okay, go ahead, sir.
So what this bill does is expand housing in commercial, in office, and in shopping districts. Currently, it's already permissible to build housing in commercial districts where certain conditions are satisfied, including most significantly and detrimentally that the parcel be located on an arterial or a collector street. That's a problem not just because it significantly limits the parcels where we're able to build housing, but it banishes that housing that we do permit to the busiest, the most dangerous, and the most polluted parts of the city. What this legislation does is make a few adjustments to those conditions, including the condition that it be located on an arterial or collector street. This is beneficial for a number of policy reasons. First, it expands the number of parcels that are eligible for housing. This increases the supply of housing and helps ease pressure on housing markets. Second, it focuses that housing construction where it makes the most sense in proximity to commercial amenities. This represents a chance to push back against rising car traffic and congestion in the city and instead allow more bikeable and more walkable communities. Third and finally, this has no effect on residential zoning districts, thereby helping us avoid disrupting established residential neighborhoods. So while this is a relatively minor adjustment, it is one that brings real benefit for housing and for our residents, while also avoiding disruptions on established residential neighborhoods. I'd ask for your vote in approval for this. Thank you.
Okay, we are now on discussion for the motion to approve. And first in the queue is Councilman Coupin. You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of this bill and of the efforts of my colleague. As I mentioned earlier, we are in a housing shortage and appreciate this council's efforts to get creative on ways to increase the housing stock in our city. And as my colleague mentioned, this doesn't negatively impact residential neighborhoods, but does allow for more opportunities for more housing options. And so really appreciate the effort that I know Councilman Horton's put into this, and excited to stand in support of this measure and hope my colleagues will all do the same. Thank you.
Okay, Chair Gamble, you are recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. First, I want to thank everyone who came out to speak about their support for this bill. I support the intent of this bill. I think it is a good way to increase our housing stock and doing that on commercial property. However, I have heard some concerns from constituents in my district, as well as other districts that have large suburban communities. One thing that our suburban communities, and some of them don't have, is commercial amenities like grocery stores and retail and other things that are enjoyable in our more urban communities. So there is a concern that if we allow just residential on these commercial sites that are lend way to have more commercial amenities in the community, that we have a balance, that we do need the housing. We do need to be creative in allowing residential in commercial, mostly commercial zoning on our corridors, although this does impact everywhere, not just on the corridors, but anywhere in the community. We also need to be mindful that some communities have wanted and have been waiting for commercial for a long time and been told that we didn't have the market for commercial because we didn't have the housing, the rooftops to get it. We're getting more rooftops, but also wanting to maintain space to get those commercial amenities too. So just wanted to highlight that concern that I've heard. We had a robust discussion during the Planning Commission about this, and it was approved unanimously at the Planning Commission, but there was a comment made by one of the commissioners, Ed Henley, that the Planning Department look at if there's a way to ensure that there is some balance where the entire property may not just be used for commercial, but also, the entire property may not just be used for residential, but also provide an avenue or opportunity to have some commercial, particularly in those suburban communities that really want it. So just wanted to make that comment, but I do support the bill and appreciate the people who came out to speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Councilwoman Benedict. You're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you to the sponsor and to those who came out. I rise in support of this bill. One of the things that a constituent came to me about when they were asking about this bill, they actually pointed out to me how important it is, and I did talk about this briefly at the Planning Commission last week. Work from home started many years ago, and after COVID, work from home really took off. And so we see a lot of buildings that are already in place today that are commercial and they're sitting vacant. And with the need for housing that we have, this is a great way to go ahead and get that converted, get some residential units moved into this land that's currently not being used in its most effective and efficient way. In land use, we talk about we hear folks talk in the planning department such about the highest and best use for the land. And so certainly building sitting vacant is not that. And so with that, that was a really great point that I wanted to call out and point out to my colleagues. I found it to be astute for my constituent, and I thank them for bringing that to my attention. I encourage my colleagues to vote in favor of this. Thank you.
All right, next is Ms. Toombs. Councilwoman Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I am supportive of this legislation. However, I do want to point out that all of the projects in my district that were commercial properties on a major arterial street that have done adapted residential, they've all done it for Airbnbs. And if that trend were to continue, there wouldn't be any benefit to increasing our housing stock. It would be all Airbnbs. So I'm supportive on second reading, but I will be looking on third for some type of protection, possibly that prevents all these properties for going to Airbnbs. Unfortunately, my district being so close to downtown, having some of the best views in the city, that's what attracts people to the district when they see these commercial properties that are available. So I would like to see some protection against that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Toombs. Mr. Huffman, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I rise in support of this item as well. For those that are familiar with some of my campaign platforms from my run last year, one thing that I ran on was the idea of creating a downtown Hermitage corridor. Very, very similar to what Donaldson is doing right now, very, very close to us. And the purpose of that is to create the sense of community around our current police station, library, and community center, which is already built, which already exists within a nice little quadrant. Now, within the area where this is going to take place, there is a commercial zone where there's several factories and industry type warehouses. Then you go a little bit further down the road and you've got a brand new city park in Ravenwood Park. And I highlight that specifically because over the next decade, 2 decades, the area between downtown Hermitage and Ravenwood Park would be a perfect candidate for the expansion of housing. I ask that you support this because, number one, it is helping us solve one of the biggest crises that our city faces right now, which is housing. And it does it in a very thoughtful way that uses land that right now may not even be in use. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huffman. Councilman Parker, Chair Parker, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. My neighboring colleague from District 2 nailed my concern about this. I really want to get to a yes, but, you know, I've seen a similar pattern in my district of a lot of the adaptive residential that's happening in, you know, CS and these other commercial districts, just being completely short-term rental and not really adding anything to our housing stock, and in some cases being kind of right adjacent to neighboring residential. So this is Title 17. It's amendable on third. I've been discussing with staff about drafting an amendment. Not quite sure. I'm confident that we can get that in time for the next meeting, but I just want to remind colleagues that this is Title 17. It's amendable on third. It can be deferred as many times as we want on third without getting an indefinite deferral because it is Title 17. So I share that concern that my colleague expressed, and I'm working on it. I would encourage if other colleagues want to explore language, Matt Wilkinson in our office is probably the best person to reach out to. That's who I'm working with. So I hope to have an amendment. The sponsor, I hope, welcomes it. The sponsor may have an amendment. Another council member may have an amendment, but that's something that I need to see addressed for myself to get comfortable with this. But I do like the intent of the bill. I think it's good to expand the adaptive residential provisions out into these areas. I just want to make sure that we're getting residential use from these added adaptive residential entitlements that we might be granting here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Parker. Councilwoman Sepulveda, Chair Sepulveda, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm going to be brief. A lot of what I was going to say has already been addressed. I do appreciate Councilmember Parker working on an amendment for third reading. That was one of my concerns regarding short-term rentals. So I'm glad that's going to be addressed. I think housing is a very important topic that we have been discussing as a body lately. I leave my apartment complex, just go right outside of it, and I can go to a food market. There's a barber shop. There's a bakery. There's a Mexican restaurant. There's a Hooters. It has the most random things all within walking distance. And if I could live above the market, I would. Coming from a family, I don't know if you all know the historical neighborhood of Little Village in Chicago. There is a lot of residential above commercial space, and it's very, very convenient for a lot of families, very walkable. So I love this idea, and I am rising in support.
Thank you, Chair. Councilwoman Welsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I too rise in support of this bill. My district in redistricting picked up a large swath of commercially zoned land that is massively underused, and my district was downzoned many, many years ago, and we have a great need for increased housing. So this will actually offer a great opportunity for people right in my district to be able to perhaps stay in the district when they might not be able to as other things are happening within the city. This is very similar to things we already do when we do mixed use, only generally we start with residential and bring in elements of commercial, and now we're starting with commercial, and then we will bring in aspects of residential. I do support the amendment that CM Parker and CM Toombs talked about in terms of trying to find some guarantee that what we build on these commercial properties is actually dedicated to residential housing as opposed to short-term rentals. But I think that this offers an opportunity for people to experience the city in a new way if they get or are able to live in an area that is on a commercial corridor that has transit and is closer to the amenities that they want, that right now they have to actually trek to. So I think this is going to be a net positive for the entire city, and I rise in support, and I hope that my colleagues will support this too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Welsh. Next, Councilwoman Hancock, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Councilmember Horton for always looking after the best interests of our city. I do have a clarification question I'd like to ask planning about, if you wouldn't mind. I was wondering, Vice Mayor, Vice Mayor, I was wondering if AR2A is allowed for this particular new use.
Okay. Ms. Milligan, representing the Planning Department, you're recognized to answer that question, please, ma'am.
No.
Very detailed answer. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, yes, the answer was no. Yes, got it. Okay. Mr. Eastlick, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you. I stand against this, ordinance. Unlike CM's area, mine, which would fall under this, is the opposite. I have a street, Bridgeway, which is a CS at the moment. It's down from the quarry. It's down from an asphalt plant. It's down from a couple of other big plants. At about 4 a.m., concrete trucks start going down that road. I've already had a developer wanting to put houses on that road. I think it's going to end up being an issue for the council person, which would be me and the ones to follow me. So I'm not looking to have residential on a road like that. There isn't really anything around there. We would be able to handle these individually as far as already zoning and changing those. So I don't see blanket changes for CS when it may not have a bakery at a Hooters or something near. This is just a street that I already have issues with big trucks going down starting early in the morning, and it would be terrible to put housing on there. I don't think the developers would have the best interest at heart of the people that are going to move in there, and they would just build it, sell it, and move on. And then it would be a permanent issue for the council person and the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eastlick. Councilwoman Kimbrough, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I've had some of my questions answered by planning and some other council members, but I am very concerned. For one, I have the largest district, and we have so much diverse land in that district that at this point anyway, I don't feel comfortable supporting something like this because I am concerned about the diversity in the area, some of the rural areas. Even, it's just so many different spots within District 1 that this could have a negative effect on that. Like I said, at this point, I just can't, because I foresee this potentially being most detrimental to my district, even though I understand the spirit behind it and people want to address the housing crisis. I am concerned about my district and how this may affect that district. So I can't support it at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kimbrough. Councilwoman Evans, Chair Evans, you're recognized, ma'am.
Never mind. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Allen, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm supportive of this. I continue to work on solutions to affordable housing, and this is one that comes up frequently as just being more flexible in what and where we can put housing, and to have an option that doesn't put it in neighborhoods that have already established themselves, but in areas that are open to changes in character, I think is smart, and we've seen it work in other cities. I appreciate the comments about not using up our, or at least not using up all the commercial options in areas that would love to have more, but that piece about adding rooftops is so important. And having the ability to have retail on the first floor and residential above it, I think creates the option to make that happen. And then I would also just remind folks that this applies to the office, general, several types of commercial, and SC, which I think is shopping center. This does not apply to agricultural or rural types of areas. So I think council members can check on what the zoning in their areas is to make themselves more comfortable before we get to third reading. And I'm comfortable with some of the amendments that have been discussed with regard to protecting against short-term rentals. So I'm in support.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Sponsor Horton, we're back to you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you to all the council members who spoke in favor as well as raised concerns about this, particularly about STRs. The purpose of this is to provide more housing options for people, and I think it's important that that housing goes towards owners or long-term residents and not short-term rentals. And so if it would go towards addressing those concerns, planning already has a substitute bill coming for third reading, in which the purpose of the substitute is to clarify the application of the bill to planned unit developments. As part of that substitute, I'm happy to include a provision that makes sure that this housing that we're expanding in commercial districts does not go towards short-term rentals, if that would address the concerns of those in this body who've raised that concern.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Horton, for kind of pulling all those discussion points back together. So we've got one more person in the queue. Just a reminder, this is the second of 3 readings on an amendable bill. Are you still seeking to be recognized again, Ms. Kimbrough? Oh, okay. Go ahead, ma'am.
I was, but since you put it like that, I'm gonna sit down. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, seeing no one else in the queue, again, this is the second of 3 readings, so we can do this by a simple majority by voice. And so there is a motion to approve, properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, all right, that is still a majority. So this passes second reading and moves on to third reading. Okay. Let's see. Next on public hearing is agenda item 7, ordinance BL 2024-335, sponsors Toombs, Evans, and Evans Siegel. This is an ordinance amending section 17.40.740 and 17.40.770 of the Metropolitan Code zoning regulations to reorganize and amend the requirements for a waiver of the fees associated with an application to the Board of Zoning Appeals made by a member or members of the Metropolitan Council. Okay, Ms. Toombs, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing none. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Also seeing none. Okay, with that, I declare the public hearing closed, and it's back to you for a motion.
Move for approval with a brief comment.
Is there a second? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Toombs.
Thank you. Colleagues, this bill provides another tool for council members. It's similar to the waivers we are allowed to do for zoning application fees. With our affordable housing crisis and all of our desire to help folks stay in their homes, sometimes these fees are a barrier to homeowners. I've had an incident recently in which a married couple, they have been taken advantage of by a contractor, and so they're having to get variances and just, they're so stretched that every dollar counts. And so this will help families like theirs stay in their homes. And so with that, I ask for approval.
Okay, there's a motion to approve, properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this bill? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this is passes second of 3 readings. Okay, next, agenda item 8. Ordinance BL 2024-346, sponsor Huffman, is an ordinance to amend Chapter 16.04 and Section 17.12.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to relocate the front facade orientation requirement for single-family principal structures from Title 16 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws. Mr. Huffman, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing none on either side, I declare the public hearing closed, and it is back to you, Mr. Huffman, for a motion on this bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move for approval with a brief comment.
Is there a second? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. Essentially, this item is what's referred to as a cleanup bill. Wanted to give a little bit of history for the members so that they could understand exactly what we're trying to do here. Back in 2004, this council body passed a piece of legislation that required that the front door be on a home facing the road. And when they did that, they stuck it under a title that made the appeals process a little bit difficult, to say the least. Everything right now, when it comes to this specific requirement, must go through Title 16, which goes to the Building and Fire Code Appeals Board. Most of the time when they get these, they're confused to why they're getting them in general. All this legislation does is it moves it to the proper area, which is Title 17, which is the Board of Zoning and Appeals. I ask for your approval for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huffman. It's properly moved and seconded. You've heard an explanation from the sponsor. Is there anyone seeking discussion on the motion to approve on second reading? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this passes the second of 3 readings. Next is Agenda Item 9, Ordinance BL 2024-372, sponsor Kimbrough. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from RS10 to R10 zoning for property located at 3411 Hydes Ferry Road, approximately 235 feet southwest of Ashton Avenue and Hydes Ferry Road intersection. This is 0.37 acres, all of which is described herein. Ms. Kimbrough, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, see you back there. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing no one here in opposition, do those persons here in support wish to speak? Okay, they are shaking their heads no. And so with that, I declare the public hearing closed. And so it is back to you, Sponsor Kimbrough, for a motion on your bill.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. Anything you want to share?
No.
Okay, all good. Is anyone seeking discussion on this bill? Motion to approve. Okay, seeing none. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this passes the second of 3 readings. Okay, next is agenda item 10, and for purposes of public hearing, also agenda item 11, sponsor Toombs, BL 2024-400 and BL 2024-401, its companion bill regarding materials. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from RM20A to SP zoning for properties located at 15A, B, and C Fern Avenue, approximately 150 feet west of Elmhurst Avenue. This is 0.21 acres, all of which is described herein. Ms. Toombs, you are recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, see you back there. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing none, do those here in support wish to speak? Okay, they are shaking their heads no, Ms. Toombs. And so with that, I would declare the public hearing closed, and it's back to you for a motion on these, 2 bills.
Move for approval.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, there's a motion to approve, properly seconded, for the approval on second reading of BL 2024-400 and BL 2024-401. I see no one seeking discussion. Okay, with that, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, both these bills have passed the second of 3 readings. Okay, next is agenda item 12, ordinance BL 2024-402, sponsor Welsh. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from RS5 to RM20ANS zoning for properties located at 338 Whitsett Road and Whitsett Road unnumbered. This is approximately 190 feet east of Nolensville Pike, 0.39 acres, all of which is described herein. Ms. Welsh, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay, with that, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, I don't see anyone. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? I also see no one. Okay, with that, I will declare the public hearing closed, and it's back to you, Ms. Welsh, for a motion on your bill.
I'd like to move to approve.
Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion to approve on second reading? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this has passed the second of 3 readings. Okay, agenda item 13, ordinance BL 2024-403, sponsor Vo. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, applying a historic landmark overlay district to property located at 1109 First Avenue South, approximately 150 feet south of Mildred Chute Avenue, and within the Wedgwood-Houston Chestnut Hill Urban Design Overlay District, zoned RM20. This is 0.36 acres. Ms. Vo, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the hearing.
Okay. I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? No? Okay, no hands. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing none on either side, Ms. Vo, I will declare the public hearing closed, and it's back to you for a motion on your bill.
Thank you. I motion to approve without a brief comment.
Without? Okay, all right. Is there a second? All right. Motion to approve properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing no members seeking any discussion in the queue, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this bill has passed the second of 3 readings. Okay, agenda item 14, sponsors, or rather, ordinance BL 2024-404, sponsors Sepulveda and Allen. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from OR20 to MULA zoning for property located at 5100 Linbar Drive, approximately 1,250 feet east of Wallace Road. This is 0.5 acres. Ms. Sepulveda, you are recognized.
Move to open the public hearing.
Okay, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, thank you. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing no one here in opposition, would the folks here in support seek to speak or be recognized? Okay, they are nodding their head no, Ms. Sepulveda. So with that, I will declare the public hearing closed, and it is back to you for a motion on your bill.
Move for approval.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, it's properly moved and seconded for approval on second reading. Is there any member seeking discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this has passed the second of 3 readings. Agenda item 15, ordinance BL 2024-405, sponsor Toombs. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from RS 7.5 to RM 9 NS zoning for property located at 506 Ewing Drive, approximately 185 feet east of Gwenwood Drive. This is 2.88 acres. Ms. Toombs, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'm going to withdraw this one.
Okay, with that, the bill is withdrawn. Okay, so Ms. Toombs, Bill BL 2024-405 is withdrawn. Okay, agenda item 16, ordinance BL 2024-406, sponsor Welsh. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from RS5 to R6A zoning for properties located at 299 and 301 Oriel Avenue at the southwest corner of Oriel Avenue and Burbank Avenue. This is 0.41 acres. Ms. Welsh, you are recognized. Whoops. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay, with that, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing none. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Also seeing none. Okay, seeing no one here in opposition or support, I will declare the public hearing closed. And it's back to you, Ms. Welsh, for a motion on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move to approve.
Okay, is there a second? There's a motion to approve, properly seconded on approving this on second reading. Is any member seeking discussion? Okay, seeing no one in the queue, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this has passed the second of 3 readings. Next is agenda item 17, ordinance BL 2024-407, sponsor Vo. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from R6 to OR20A NS zoning for property located at 749 Linwood, got a printing error there, Avenue. Okay, approximately 30 feet west of Ridley Boulevard. This is 0.14 acres. Ms. Vo, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the hearing.
Okay, with that, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing none. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Also seeing none. Okay, seeing no one here in opposition or support, I declare the public hearing closed. And it's back to you, Ms. Vo, for a motion on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move to approve.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, motion to approve, properly seconded. Any member seeking discussion? Okay, seeing no one in the queue, we'll move to the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this passes the second of 3 readings. Okay, now we're on to agenda items 18 and 19. These are companions to each other. This is ordinance BL 2024-408, as well as BL 2024-409, which is about the materials in the former bill. It's sponsor Spain, and this is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from R80 to SP zoning for property located at 7848 McQuarrie Lane, approximately 410 feet south of Highway 70. This is 38.41 acres, and this is to permit 90 single-family residential lots. Mr. Spain, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Move to open the public hearing.
Okay, with that, I declare the public hearing open for both of these bills. Would all members of the public here in support of these bills please raise your hand? Okay, see you back there, thank you. Would all members of the public here in opposition to these bills please raise your hand? Okay, seeing no one here in opposition, do the gentlemen in favor seek to be recognized? Okay, they are shaking their heads no, Mr. Spain. And so given that, I will declare the public hearing closed, and it is back to you for, I believe you can make a consolidated motion on both of these bills.
Thank you, Madam President. Move approval of BL 2024-408 and 409.
Okay, is there a second? Properly moved and properly seconded. Is anyone seeking discussion on these two bills, companion bills? Seeing no one in the queue, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone voting no or abstaining? Okay, both these bills have passed the second of 3 readings. Okay. Okay, now we're on to agenda item 20. This is ordinance BL 2024-410, sponsor Toombs. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from R10 to RM15A NS zoning for property located at 2119 Courtney Avenue at the northwest corner of Courtney Avenue and Belfield Avenue. This is 0.35 acres. Ms. Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Okay, with that, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, thank you, sir. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing no one here in opposition, does the gentleman here in support seek to speak? Okay, he is nodding his head no, Ms. Toombs. So with that, I will declare the public hearing closed, and it's back to you for a motion on your bill.
Move for approval.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded for passage on second reading. Is there anyone seeking discussion? Okay, seeing no one in the queue, all in favor, please say aye. Anyone voting no? Anyone abstaining? Okay, this has passed second reading. Okay, next is agenda item 21, ordinance BL 2024-411, sponsor Welsh. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from RS5 to RM20ANS zoning for property located at 231 Glenrose Avenue, approximately 45 feet west of Burbank Avenue. This is 0.12 acres. Ms. Welsh, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay, with that, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing none. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Also seeing none. Okay, with no one here in support or opposition, I declare the public hearing closed. It's back to you, Ms. Welsh, for a motion on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to move to defer until the first meeting of August.
Okay, there's a motion to defer this bill to the first meeting in August. Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the deferral motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, BL 2024-411 is deferred to the first meeting in August. Okay, next is agenda item 22, ordinance BL 2024-412, sponsor Vo. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from R6 to RM20A zoning for property located at 758 Linwood Avenue, approximately 230 feet west of Ridley Boulevard. That kind of rings a bell. Is that redundant, Ms. Vo, to an earlier? Okay. And is, okay, all right. Just want to make sure. 758 Linwood Avenue, approximately 230 feet west of Ridley Boulevard. This is 0.14 acres. Ms. Vo, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay, with that, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Thank you, sir. Okay, would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing no one here in opposition, does the gentleman in support seek to speak? He is saying no. And so with that, Ms. Vo, I will declare the public hearing closed, and it's back to you for a motion on this bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Okay, there's a motion to approve, properly seconded for this bill on second of 3 readings. Seeing no one seeking discussion, all in favor, please say aye. Anyone voting no? Anyone abstaining? Okay, this bill has passed second reading. Okay, agenda item 23, ordinance BL 2024-413, sponsor Prep T. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County by changing from R40 to R30 zoning for property located at 3603 Belmont Boulevard, approximately 300 feet south of Gray Bar Lane. This is 0.69 acres. Mr. Prep T, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'd like to move to open the public hearing.
Okay. With that, I will declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Thank you all. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Seeing no one here in opposition, do those in support seek to speak? They are saying no. And so with that, Mr. Prep T, I will declare the public hearing closed and it is back to you for a motion on your bill.
Move for approval with a brief comment.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. So this is a rezone of a parcel of land in District 25. Currently, as it's currently zoned, it's a non-conforming lot. So this rezone essentially just brings it into conformity so that the owners can actually utilize the structure and renovate and build on the lands given our current zoning codes. So with that, Madam Vice Mayor, I renew my motion.
Okay. There's a motion to approve, properly seconded. You've heard an explanation from the sponsor. Is anyone seeking to be recognized for discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this has passed the second of 3 readings. Okay, next on our agenda is item 24, ordinance BL 2024-414, sponsor Toombs. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from R8 to IWD zoning for property located at 421 Woodfolk Avenue, approximately 525 feet west of Brick Church Pike. This is 0.11 acres. Ms. Toombs, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Request to open the public hearing.
Okay, with that, I will declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, thank you, sir. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing no one here in opposition, does the gentleman seek to speak in support? He is nodding his head no, Ms. Toombs. And so with that, I will declare the public hearing closed and it's back to you for a motion on your bill.
Move for approval.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, there's a motion to approve, properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this bill? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this has passed the second of 3 readings. Okay, agenda item 25, ordinance BL 2024-415, sponsor Welsh. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from RS5 to R6A zoning for property located at 2320 Foster Avenue, approximately 50 feet north of Peachtree Street. This is 0.17 acres. Ms. Welsh, you are are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay, with that, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing none, would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay, seeing no one here seeking to speak, either in support or opposition, I will declare the public hearing closed, and it's back to you, Ms. Welsh, for a motion on your bill.
I'd like to move to approve. I'd like to.
Okay, is there a second for that motion? Okay, all right, that motion was some motion. Okay, making sure everybody's paying attention. Thank you, Ms. Welsh, appreciate it. Okay, anyone seeking discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this has passed the second of 3 readings. Okay, agenda item 26, ordinance BL 2024-416, sponsor Ewing. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, amending a portion of a planned unit development overlay district to permit an increase in the allowable square footage of property located at 7075 Old Harding Pike, approximately 597 feet west of Old Hickory Boulevard, zoned SCC. This is 0.67 acres. Ms. Ewing, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to request to open the public hearing.
Okay, with that, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, thank you. All right, and would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay, is there anybody, folks that are standing up? Please be seated in the gallery so I can make sure to see everybody. Thank you. So anybody here in opposition? Okay, seeing no one here in opposition, does the gentleman in support seek to be recognized to speak in favor? No, sir? Okay. Alrighty, with that, I will declare the public hearing closed, and then it's back to you, Ms. Ewing, for a motion on your bill.
Thank you. I'd like to move to approve.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, there's a motion to approve, properly seconded. Is anyone seeking discussion on this bill? Seeing no one in the queue, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this has passed the second of 3 readings. Okay, let's see. So this is agenda item 27. This is ordinance BL 2024-417, sponsor Stiles. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by canceling a portion of a planned unit development for property located at 5255 Hickory Hollow Parkway, approximately 422 feet west of Bell Road and Hickory Hollow Parkway intersection. This is zoned SCR and is 4.83 acres. Ms. Stiles, you are recognized.
Yes, I'd like to open the public hearing, please.
Okay, with that, I will declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, anyone here in support? Okay, would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay. Also seeing no one. So with no one here seeking to speak in support or opposition to this bill, Ms. Stiles, I will declare the public hearing closed, and it's back to you for a motion on your bill.
Thank you very much. I'd like to move for approval with a brief comment.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, go ahead.
So colleagues, I would appreciate your voting yes this evening. This is the property where the future Chinatown is going to go in Antioch, so right off of Bell Road. So this is a great opportunity for us to move the area forward. It's right across the street from the Global Mall as well. So it all works together ultimately. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Stiles, there is a motion to approve properly seconded before us. You've given us an explanation. Do you seek to move your amendment? Okay, so.
I do.
If you could please then make a motion.
I move to approve.
Motion to amend, please.
Amend, okay, motion to amend.
Okay, there is a motion to amend. Is there a second to the motion to amend? Okay, all right. Is anyone seeking discussion on the amendment? Okay, Ms. Porterfield, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Can we get an explanation of the amendment?
Yes, we can go back to Ms. Stiles for a brief explanation on her amendment. Go ahead, Ms. Stiles.
If you'll hold on for me 1 second, because I don't have it pulled up.
Okay, would you like to acknowledge the planning table perhaps?
Sure.
To explain that?
Let them go
Okay.
ahead.
All right. Ms. Milligan from the Planning Department, you are recognized for an explanation of the amendment, please.
The amendment updates the ownership information. So the ownership changed from the time that it was originally filed until now. And so the amendment simply updates the ownership information.
Okay, so it is a housekeeping amendment then. So there is a motion to amend, properly seconded. You have heard an explanation from the planning desk. Ms. Stiles, is there any other explanation or clarification you are seeking to make regarding your amendment, or we can move to the vote to amend?
Absolutely not. I want to move to the motion to amend.
Okay, there's a motion to amend, properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Okay, any voting no or abstaining? Okay, so the amendment is now on the bill, Ms. Stiles, so we need a motion to approve the bill as amended, please, ma'am.
I motion to approve the bill as amended, please.
Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. The bill as amended for approval on second reading. Is anyone seeking discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this is passed second reading as amended. Okay, next are agenda items 28 and 29. They are companion bills to each other, and so they can be taken up at the same time for purposes of public hearing. This is ordinance BL 2024-418. And agenda item 29, ordinance BL 2024-419, both sponsor Evans. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, amending a specific plan for property located at 4214 Central Pike at the south corner of North New Hope Road and Central Pike, zoned SP. This is 15.4 acres to permit multifamily residential units. Ms. Evans, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move to open the public hearing, please.
Okay, for both these bills?
Yes, please.
These companion bills. Okay, with that, I will declare the public hearing open for both bills, BL 2024-418 and 419. Would all members of the public here in support of these bills, please raise your hand? Okay, thank you, everyone. Would all members of the public here in opposition to these bills, please raise your hand? Okay, seeing no one here in opposition, do those folks that are here in support seek to be recognized or speak? Okay, I'm seeing nodding heads no. And so with that, Ms. Evans, I will declare the public hearing closed. And it is back to you for a consolidated motion on both these bills.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to move to pass both of these items on second and then defer third reading to Tuesday, August the 6th.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. So there is a motion to approve on second reading and then to defer the third reading to the meeting of August 6th. Is that correct? Ms. Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
For both these bills. Okay. Is there any discussion, and properly seconded, is there any discussion on this motion? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, so this has passed second reading with the third reading deferred to the meeting of August 6th. Okay. Next on our agenda are agenda items 30 and 31. They are companion bills to each other, ordinance BL 2024-420 and ordinance BL 2024-421, the latter of which is particular to the materials in the first ordinance. So this is an ordinance to amend, sponsor Spain for both of these. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by amending a portion of a specific plan for properties located at 441 Union Bridge Road and Union Bridge Road unnumbered at the southeast corner of Union Bridge Road and Pasquo Road, zoned SP. This is 20.93 acres to permit a mixed-use development. Mr. Spain, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Move to open the public hearing on both bills.
Okay. With that, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of these bills please raise your hand? Okay, thank you, sir. Would all members of the public here in opposition to these bills please raise your hand? Okay, seeing no one here in opposition, does the gentleman in support seek to be recognized or speak? Okay, with that, then I will declare the public hearing closed, and it's back to you, Councilmember Spain, for a consolidated motion on both these bills.
Move approval of BL 2024-420 and 421.
Is there a second? Properly moved and properly seconded. Is anyone seeking discussion on these two bills? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, both these bills have passed second reading. Okay, next is agenda item 32, ordinance BL 2024-422, sponsor Sepulveda, an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from R8 to RM20A, zoning for property located at 529 Paragon Mills Road, approximately 139 feet east of Travis Drive. This is 3.4 acres. Councilwoman Sepulveda, you are recognized.
Move to open up the public hearing.
Okay, with that, I will declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of this bill please raise your hand? Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand? Okay, there are folks that are here both in support and in opposition. Seeing that opposition, I would invite first the members in support to please come forward to the podium, and persons in opposition will speak after those speaking in support. Go ahead, sir. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Okay, all open. Go ahead.
Good evening, John Cooper, 103 Fox Hunt Point, 37221 with the law firm Holland and Knight, here representing the Salvation Army, who is the owner of the property, and will be developing the property for some transitional housing, which you will hear more of in just a minute. To date, we've heard no opposition. It was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission as being consistent with the policy, and we urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, thank you. Harold Witherspoon, Executive Director of Development for the Salvation Army. Thank you for the time. It is our intent to make sure that we're continuing to add beds to the gap housing. The entire property will also be redeveloped for community access and use to the green space. So we have taken the community into consideration. We also received some benefit from the community in our initial meeting. They came in and shared some ideas that we also have included in the plan. So we have heard the community, included that in the plan, and intend to continue to add beds to the space to move more people into permanent housing.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Major Bill Mockabee with the Salvation Army Nashville Area Command, and just wanted to say that with this, the intent is to make sure that this is for families and that we have housing available for them as they are transitioning into sustainable housing moving forward. They will be case managed. They will be there for short periods of time, but this is really to move people towards those sustainability for their whole families.
Okay, thank you. Those in opposition seeking to be recognized and speak, please come on forward if so. Go ahead, sir.
I will, after I get my notes out. Okay. Been a Nashville resident for 42 years.
Sir, if you might pull the microphone a little closer to your
there we
mouth
go.
so the public and the body can hear you. Thank you.
All right. Been a Nashville resident for 42 years, owned 5 homes in multiple parts of town, currently own in Paragon Mills, District 30. My concerns are increased congestion. That happens to be in the path for many of us who are coming and going to Nolensville Road often, and that is a congested area right there. This would allow 68 new units. That's what the zoning would allow. That's why I'm here, because I don't want 68 more units between me and Nolensville Road. I haven't heard anything of anything other than when the sign went up for the rezoning. That's what brought me down here. It's directly across the street from 35 units currently being built at 522 Paragon Mills. And an interesting point for me is that 50% of this property is in a FEMA floodplain with the 100-year floodplain, which is curious to me. And then as far as, I'm curious if this would also be applied to the other Salvation Army parcel, which is at, what is it? It's 2 acres, which is directly next to it. And so also, I'm always curious about zoning of churches, which I believe in Nashville, there is no zoning specifically for churches, if I'm correct. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Sir, could you state your name, please, for the record?
Eugene Dries, Dries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Dries. Okay. Seeing no one else okay. If you intend to speak, please do come on forward in the vicinity of the podium so we can save some time. Go ahead, ma'am.
On it. I will save some time. My name is Hillary Swaim. I am also a Paragon Mills resident, represented by Councilmember Sepulveda and previously Councilmember Johnston. I echo a lot of what my neighbor said about not being aware prior to the sign, so whether that is civic malfeasance on our side or the awareness, I'd love to be part of these conversations. The transitional housing in my neighborhood, my only question is whether the Salvation Army, of all places, really wants to cast people into a floodplain, having lived in that neighborhood through the 2021 floods, where, as my neighbor mentioned, houses were scraped from that same 7 Mile Creek floodplain. I don't understand the logic there. In the spirit of some of the creative solutions we were talking about earlier, I know that the Plaza Mariachi development, even just today, announced their bankruptcy. Perhaps there is an option on that elevated land, moments away from the Salvation Army plot, to do something. I just cannot understand why the plan for some of the most vulnerable in our community is to put them into a floodplain. I'll end there.
Okay. Thank you. With that, seeing no one else seeking to be recognized to speak in opposition, I declare the public hearing closed. And it is back to you, Ms. Sepulveda, for a motion on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move for approval with a brief comment.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. I do want to thank the District 30 residents who came out to speak on public hearing today. Really appreciate the input. This project was started under Councilmember Johnston before it got rezoned to me when we did redistricting. And so I came into the tail end of this conversation. I did attend the last community meeting that was had at the Salvation Army, in which all the plans were presented. Residents got to ask questions. I thought it was important that one of the big components of the project was also a community space opened to everyone in the neighborhood, which is an asset. I do hear the concerns regarding the floodplain. I think a lot of those concerns were addressed in the community meeting. So I would like to pass it on this reading, but between now and the last reading, I think that there are several things that we can try and get answered for you all and try to address to make sure that we're all good by final reading. So with that, I would move for approval.
Okay, there was already a motion to approve and properly seconded. You have heard an explanation from Ms. Sepulveda. Okay, so this is a motion to approve on the second of 3 readings. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Is that an abstention, Ms. Stiles? Okay. Mr. Clerk, if you would please record Ms. Stiles as an abstention on second reading. Okay. Next is agenda item 33, ordinance BL 2024-423, sponsor Ewing. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, changing from OR 20 to MULA zoning for property located at 4107 Hillsborough Circle, approximately 150 feet southwest of Hillsborough Drive. This is 0.17 acres located within the Green Hills Urban Design Overlay. Ms. Ewing, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Excuse me, it's been brought to my attention that we need to still allow for proper public notice, so I'm moving to defer this, if I may, to August 2nd.
August 6th, is it? To the
August.
the first, yeah.
The first meeting in August.
The first meeting in August, which is a public hearing. So we're going to defer second reading to August 6th. Is there a second for that motion? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion to defer this second reading to August 6th? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this is deferred to August 6th. Okay, next is agenda item 34. This is ordinance BL 2024-424, as well as agenda item 35. They are companions to each other. So ordinance BL 2024-425, both sponsors Parker. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from R6 to SP zoning for property located at 928 Delmas Avenue, approximately 1,180 feet west of Gallatin Pike. This is 0.34 acres to permit 2 multifamily residential units. The companion bill, same address, same property. It is related to their materials. So we can take up both these bills at the same time for purposes of public hearing. Mr. Parker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to open the public hearing.
Okay, with that, I declare the public hearing open. Would all members of the public here in support of these bills please raise your hand? Okay, thank you, sir. There's somebody behind that column, Mr. Parker, if you can't see. Okay. Would all members of the public here in opposition to this bill please raise your hand, or bills rather? Okay, seeing none, does the gentleman here in support seek to be recognized or speak? He is shaking his head no, Mr. Parker, and so with that, I will declare the public hearing closed, and it is back to you for a consolidated motion on your bills.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move the 2 bills for approval.
Okay. Okay, there's a motion to approve both BL 2024-424 and 425 on second reading, properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, both these bills have passed second reading. And that concludes the public hearing portion of our agenda for the evening. Okay. Okay, next is section L, and this is our consolidated consent agenda. All resolutions and second and third reading ordinances on this agenda are included on the consent agenda if recommended for approval unanimously by all committees to which the item was referred. Items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. The item number, along with the resolution and ordinance number of the items on the consent agenda, will be read by me while the caption is displayed on screens here in the chamber, online, at home on your TV. Okay? Members of the council may remove any item from the consent agenda by request before the consolidated consent agenda vote is taken. Okay. Okay, items proposed for the consent agenda. First is agenda item 37, resolution 2024-560. Next is agenda item 38, resolution 2024-561. Agenda item 39, resolution 2024-562. Agenda item 40, resolution 2024-563. Agenda item 41, resolution 2024-564. Agenda item 42, resolution 2024-565. Agenda item 43, resolution 2024-566. Agenda item 44, resolution 2024-567. Agenda item 45, resolution 2024-568. Agenda item 46, resolution 2024-569. Agenda item 48, resolution 2024-571. Agenda item 49, resolution 2024-572. Agenda item 50, resolution 2024-573. Agenda item 51, resolution 2024-574. Agenda item 52, resolution 2024-575. Agenda item 53, resolution 2024-576. Agenda item 54, resolution 2024-577. And agenda item 56, resolution 2024-579. Okay, that is all of our resolutions. And so now we will move to second reading ordinances that are proposed for the consent agenda. Okay, and first among them is Agenda Item 85, Ordinance BL 2024-349. Okay, and then Agenda Item 88, Ordinance BL 2024-427. Okay, Agenda Item 90, Ordinance BL 2024-429. Agenda Item 91, Ordinance BL 2024-430. Agenda Item 92, Ordinance BL 2024-431. Agenda Item 93, Ordinance BL 2024-432. Agenda Item 94, Ordinance BL 2024-433. Agenda Item 95, Ordinance BL 2024-434. Agenda Item 96, Ordinance BL 2024-435. Agenda Item 97, Ordinance BL 2024-436. Agenda Item 98, Ordinance BL 2024-437. Agenda Item 99, Ordinance BL 2024-438. Agenda Item 100, Ordinance BL 2024-439. And Agenda Item 101, Ordinance BL 2024-440. Okay, next is bills on third reading that are proposed for the consolidated consent agenda. Okay, and first among those is Agenda Item 106, Ordinance BL 2024-375. Agenda Item 107, Ordinance BL 2024-392. Agenda Item 108, Ordinance BL 2024-393. Agenda Item 109, Ordinance BL 2024-395. Okay. Agenda Item 110, Ordinance BL 2024-396. Agenda Item 111, Ordinance BL 2024-397. Agenda Item 112, Ordinance BL 2024-398. And then lastly, Agenda Item 113, ordinance BL 2024-399. Okay. So you have heard all items proposed for the consolidated consent agenda. Do any members seek to be recognized to pull an item from consent? Excellent. No one is, it's okay, Ms. Welsh. It's okay, Ms. Suara. It's okay. All right. Ms. Welsh, you are recognized.
I'm sorry for the false hope, but my button got stuck.
It's okay.
I need to pull item number 45, please.
Okay, so that is agenda item 45, which is resolution 2024-568. Will be removed from consent. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Welsh. Okay, Councilwoman Suara, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Since I missed budget yesterday, I think it's customary for me to pull 10 items.
Please no.
But we have consent police CM Evans. So she told me I can only do 5. So here we go. Item number 90, BL 2024-429, please.
Okay.
Yeah, just
See what we're doing there? A little humor. Okay. So Ms. Suara has requested that agenda item 90, which is ordinance BL 2024-429, be pulled from the consolidated consent agenda. Okay. Okay, so noted. Okay, is any other member seeking to be recognized to remove an item from the consolidated consent agenda? Okay. I will take that as a win with just 2 removed. Excellent. Okay, so now we will move into our committee reports for items proposed for the consent agenda. Okay, and okay, y'all bear with me because we had a little bit of a late breaking reprint on this one, so I'm gonna kind of do this slightly differently. Okay, we are going to go first to Chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, Ms. Porterfield, for your committee report, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance considered the following items in our committee. RS 2024-560, RS 2024-561, RS 2024-563, 564, 565, 566, 567, 569, 572, 573, 574, 575, and 576, all of which were 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay.
We also considered BL 2024-427, 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. All righty. Thank you, Chair Porterfield. Next, Chair Stiles, for the report of Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Entertainment Committee, please.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Arts, Parks, Library, and Entertainment heard RS 2024-572, as well as 573 and 574, and all passed 5 in favor, 0 against.
Okay, thank you, Chair Stiles. Okay, next, for the report of the Planning and Zoning Committee, Chair Gamble, you are recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Our Vice
Thank
Chair,
you. I
Harold, will be
remember
giving the report today.
I was there. I apologize. Vice Chair Deontay Harrell, you are recognized, sir, for the report of your committee.
Planning and zoning, we approve the following were on consent: RS 2024-565, 574, and 577. And also they were all 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, and let's see. Did you have as well 571? RS 2024-571?
Yes. That was also 10 in favor, 0 not voting, and 0 opposition.
Great. Okay, and then next, sir, for bills on second reading, please.
All right. We consider Bill 2024-349, 430, 431.
Hang on, sir. I think 349 is that back on consent? It is, with the new printout. Is that right? It is. It is. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. We had a little bit of a late reprint, so I apologize for go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
430, 431, 432, 433, 434, 435, 436, 437, 438, 439, and 440. All
recommended for
approval. 10 in favor, 0 opposition, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair. Did he mention that one? Okay, alrighty. Vice Chair, Ms. Darby has mentioned, and I'm just to clarify, 427. Ordinance BL 2024-427.
So yesterday we pulled it off consent. It was approved. 10 in favor, 0 opposition, 0 no votes.
Okay, got it. Okay. So it can still go on consent then. Even though it was not on consent in committee, it's the unanimous approval in committee. So great. Okay, thank you, Vice Chair. Appreciate that. Okay, so next then, to Chair Evans for the report of the Public Health and Safety Committee. You're recognized, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The committee heard these items: RS 2024-560, 561, 563, and 566, and we voted to recommend approval, 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for all items.
Okay, thank you. And then okay, yep, got it. Thank you, Chair. Okay, so next then, for the report of the rules confirmations and public elections, Chair Sepulveda, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Rules considered RS 2024-562 and 579 voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, and okay, 578. Okay, 579. Okay, got it. That goes there. Okay, lastly, but not leastly, to Chair Parker for the report of the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Transportation and Infrastructure considered resolutions 2024-569, 571, 575, 576, and 577. Committee recommended approval of all of those, 12 in favor, 0 against. And bills on second reading, we considered BL 2024-349, 427, and 430 through 440. So 430 through 430 as well. On all of those, we also recommended approval, 12 in favor, 0 against.
Yeah, okay, great. Can I ask you about Resolution 2024-574?
We considered and we recommended approval, 12 in favor and 0 against.
Okay, great. Okay, then with all
And
those committee reports in, go ahead.
with all committee reports in, I will move approval of the consolidated consent agenda.
Is there a second? Okay, thank you, Chair. Properly moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the consolidated consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, you have passed all the items on the consolidated consent agenda. Okay. Okay, next we will go back to resolutions that were not on consent. Okay, and first among those is agenda item 36, resolution 2024-559, sponsors Weiner and Rutherford, a resolution providing amendments to the charter of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Tennessee, in accordance with Article 19, Section 19.01 thereof, and setting forth a brief description of each amendment to be placed upon the ballot. Ms. Weiner, you are recognized.
Thank
Chair
you, Vice
Weiner.
Mayor. I appreciate it. So Charter Revision heard RS 2024-559, and we voted to defer until the August 6th meeting, 6-4, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, is there a second for the motion to defer to the meeting of August 6th? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on this deferral motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of a deferral to the meeting of August 6th, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this resolution is deferred to August the 6th. Okay, next is agenda item 45, resolution 2024-568, sponsors Porterfield, Evans, Allen, Suara, Evans, Siegel, Ellis, and Spain. This is a resolution appropriating a total of $1,971,656.19 from the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Office of Homeless Services, to the Salvation Army for the provision of housing services and life navigation skills to people experiencing homelessness in Nashville. Chair Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. That 19 cents is very crucial, so thank you for not forgetting
I
that.
would imagine so, yes.
Committee reports, Budget and Finance considered and approved this resolution, 8 in favor, 0 against, and 0 not voting.
Okay, next to Public Health and Safety, Chair Evans, you're recognized for your report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Health and Safety considered this resolution and recommended approval, 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, all right. With those committee reports in, it is back to you, Ms. Porterfield, as the sponsor for a motion.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move for approval.
Properly moved and seconded. Any explanation? Not at all? Okay, excellent. Okay. There's a motion to approve. It is properly seconded. Is anyone seeking discussion? Okay. Ms. Welsh, you are recognized on the motion to approve.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm not actually against this contract, but having said that, I would like to move to defer for one meeting. I just have some questions. Between this meeting and the last meeting, that's about $205 million to the Salvation Army, and I'm just wondering how this is all related to the closure of Old Tent City and the rehousing of the people in Old Tent City and what the timeline for that is, because I have to assume that this is all connected. I just like to understand that. And I also,
Ms. Welsh, you've made a motion to approve. Let's make sure there's a second for
defer,
it.
sorry.
Okay, there's a motion to approve, properly seconded. I apologize. I'm so terribly sorry. Your motion is to defer, and was it one meeting?
One meeting, just one meeting.
Okay, and that motion to defer was properly seconded.
Correct.
And now you are explaining your reasoning on the deferral.
Do I need to explain it again since it was
No, ma'am,
illegal
you do-
before?
you do
Okay,
not.
thank you.
Yeah, you can just continue. I just wanted to make sure it was properly before us, before you were describing your reasoning. So go ahead.
I'd also like to get a little bit of an understanding of how this is connected to all the permanent supportive housing. I know that the Office of Homeless Services has known that we have a lot of permanent supportive housing units coming on for over a year now, but there seemed to be some confusion watching the committee meeting today about vouchers and the lack of vouchers and things that I probably should have been in place given the way you know. So anyway, I just would really like to gather some information, and which is why I would like to defer for one meeting, and I ask my colleagues to support.
Okay, there is a motion to defer, properly seconded. So now we are on discussion of the deferral. Ms. Porterfield, you are recognized on the motion to defer one meeting. Oh, I'm so sorry. I unclicked you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Could we hear from the administration on if this is a time-sensitive matter or if a deferral will hurt anything?
Okay, I'm happy to acknowledge the administration. Mr. Rosenberg, are you going to take that question, sir? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no reason to believe that this is time sensitive.
Back to you, Ms. Porterfield.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. If it is not going to harm anything, I do not have any opposition to deferral, and I would hope that my colleague could get her questions answered prior to the next meeting, and I would support the deferral.
Okay. Ms. Evans, are you seeking to be recognized on the motion to defer one meeting? Okay, go ahead, Chair Evans. Go
Thank you.
ahead.
I also, as long as it's not going to screw anything up, I also do not have an issue with deferring. I don't feel like there was any, I think the sentiment about the committee meeting today, there wasn't really any confusion about vouchers. It had nothing to do with this conversation. The relationship to vouchers was really speaking to the opioid settlement agreement. And so that's where that conversation came in, but it had nothing to do with this actual resolution. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else seeking to be recognized on the motion to defer one meeting? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the one meeting deferral, please say aye. Okay, any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this is deferred one meeting. Okay, yes, do you have a point of order, Ms. Stiles? If you have a point of order, you need to stand, please. You're recognized.
Thanks. I wanted to abstain from that vote.
Okay.
Yes.
We can record that as an abstention.
I appreciate it.
No worries. Okay. All righty. So next we are on agenda item 47, resolution 2024-570, sponsors Coupin, Porterfield, Parker, and Welsh. This is a resolution accepting a donation from 601 Lafayette Owner LLC in the amount of $100,000 as a contribution towards infrastructure improvements towards the cost of construction of a nearby community pocket park. Mr. Coupin, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee reports, please.
Okay, Ms. Porterfield for the report of the Budget and Finance Committee.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance considered 570 and voted 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for a 2-meeting deferral.
Okay, and Chair Parker for the report of Transportation Infrastructure Committee.
Thank you. We recommended a 2-meeting deferral, 12 in favor, 0 against.
Okay, All right, so it's back to you, Mr. Coopin, for a motion on your bill.
I'd like to move for a 2-meeting deferral with a brief comment.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. So asking for this 2-meeting deferral, there's some housekeeping matters we need to address in the language of this bill that were raised as it was filed. So ask my colleagues to support to have some more time to clean up the language and address a couple of concerns that have come up, and look forward to bringing this back next month.
Okay, there is a motion to defer 2 meetings, properly seconded, and you heard an explanation from the sponsor. Is there any discussion on the motion to defer 2 meetings to the meeting of August the 6th? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this is deferred 2 meetings. Okay, next is agenda item 55, resolution 2024-578, a resolution recognizing Gretchen Walsh on setting the world record in the 100-meter butterfly. Sponsors Porterfield, Evans, Siegel, Coopin, Spain, and Wiener. Ms. Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to withdraw with a very brief comment.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. We are so excited about Gretchen setting this world record, and we want to honor her. We do believe, knock on wood, not jinxing, that she is going to bring home some very shiny medals for not only the country, but for Nashville. So I'm going to withdraw this, and we will bring it back after the Olympics with hopefully more information.
All you so much, Ms. Porterfield. I appreciate it. This bill is withdrawn for now. Okay. All right, so that concludes all of our resolutions. And so now we will be moving into bills on introduction and first reading. Okay, without objection, all items on first reading may be voted on at the same time, but I know we have at least one item that will need to be pulled. So I will recognize that sponsor. If anybody else has items that need to be pulled from first reading consideration, if they would please enter the queue. But Ms. Stiles, you are recognized, ma'am, on your bill, BL 2024-441, agenda item 57.
57. Yes, so I need to suspend the rules, I believe, on this, or Ms. Darby's about to.
No, this, not on this bill. This is not the late bill. This is properly filed on first reading. I believe there is a substitute that you want to put on for first reading.
Yes.
Okay. So.
Can I do both at this time, or do I need to do one at a time?
It's next on the agenda. Do we? She has 3 other items. Okay. Ms. Darby shared that you have 3 other items on first reading. And so let's, rather than discussing the merits and reasons of any particular bill, let's just get all of those pulled from first reading so that we can do the consolidated vote on first reading, and then we will come back to your bills in order.
Fair enough.
So the first one we are pulling from first reading is agenda item 57. And then what
64,
is next?
65, and 66.
Okay. I apologize. 64.
65 and 66.
Okay. Any other members need to pull an item from first reading consideration? Okay. So is there a motion for approval of all items remaining on first consideration, excepting agenda items 57, 64, 65, and 66? Is there a motion? Okay, so it's properly moved and properly seconded. With that, we can then pass all those items on first reading. And now we will go back to the pulled items in agenda order. So all items other than these 4 have passed first reading. Okay, Ms. Stiles, so it's back to you First, on agenda item 57, ordinance BL 2024-441. This is an ordinance to amend section 16.24.340 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding algae, mold, mildew, lichen, fungus, and certain plants on exterior walls and roofs.
That was quite melodious. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
So the substitute, originally, I'm going to take
Ms.
out.
Stiles, if
I'm
you
sorry.
would just get approval or get the bill before us. So
Sorry.
need a motion to approve.
I need a motion. Okay. Move for approval.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, the bill is before us, and so now a motion to substitute is proper, if you would like to do that next.
May I move for the substitute and explain what the substitute is?
Yes, so there's a motion to substitute for Ms. Stiles. Is it seconded? Okay, go ahead and explain your substitute, please, ma'am.
Thank you. So originally was going to include algae and also some invasive plants that are growing on homes. But then originally codes wanted the invasive plants and they changed their mind. So basically we're taking the invasive plants out and just leaving the algae and mildew and lichens and fungus.
Okay. You've heard an explanation of the substitute. It has been properly moved and seconded, and so now we are just on discussion on the motion to substitute. Chair Bradford, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So 2 questions on the substitute. The first one may be for the administration. Just wondering why codes has changed their mind on invasive or non-native plants. And the second one, I believe when I read the substitute, it also was removing mold from the original bill. And so, again, going back to why are we removing mold and invasive plants from this?
Okay, so as a point of clarification, I think, Ms. Stiles, if you just want to please explain that as a further explanation of the substitute. Go ahead, you're recognized.
So originally, when I spoke with one of the property chiefs, the invasive plants was something that they wanted done. Then Director Herbert said that it might be a little iffy. So that's why we're taking out the invasive plants, because English ivy, for example, is something that people like having on their homes and grows up the side. So ultimately decided, because of Director Herbert, to take that out entirely. Mold is actually something that codes cannot address. It has to, it's OSHA? It's something else that codes can't address. So that's why they asked for mold to be taken out as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, is that sufficient clarification? Okay. Or is there anyone else seeking discussion or have any questions about the substitute? Okay, seeing none, we're on a motion to substitute, properly seconded. All in favor of the substitute, please say aye. Okay, Ms. Stiles, your bill is substituted. So now we need a motion to approve on first reading as substituted, please.
Well, I'd like to move this motion to approve on first reading then.
Okay.
Can I get approval?
Okay, properly seconded. And so, Mr. Coupin, are you seeking to be recognized on the motion to approve as substituted? Go ahead, Mr. Coupin.
I hope this is the appropriate point, but could I ask the sponsor for a brief explanation on the intent of the bill?
Sure.
Or administration or somebody?
Go ahead, Ms. Stiles.
So algae has been one of the things that I have received complaints about on people's homes for codes to go out and address it. And then code says we can't address it because it's not actually in the code. So that simple.
Thank you.
Okay, does that clarify? Okay. Is anyone else seeking discussion on the motion to approve on first reading the bill as substituted? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of passage on first reading, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this has passed first reading. Okay, next, removed from the consolidated slate of first reading bills is agenda item 64. This is ordinance BL 2024-448, sponsor Stiles. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, by changing from SCR to SP zoning for properties located at 5244, 5246, 5252, 5260 Hickory Hollow Parkway, 927 Bell Road, 5178 and 5234 Mount View Road and Mount View Road unnumbered at the western corner of Mount View Road and Rural Hill Road. This is 57.22 acres and partially within the planned unit development district to permit mixed-use development. Ms. Stiles, you are recognized.
I'd like to move for approval with a brief comment. I suspend the rules, sorry. That's right, haha.
Okay.
Suspend the rules first.
There is a request to suspend the rules. I do not see Ms. Sepulveda here, Chair Sepulveda. Okay. Okay. Got it. Did not need to go to the Rules Committee, as I understand it. And so is there any objection to the motion to suspend the rules to get this before us for approval? Okay, seeing no objection to the suspension of the rules are suspended. So Ms. Stiles, it is back to you.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. All three bills, and I would like, if I can, to pass. Can I pass all three since they're all apart, 64, 65, and 66?
Okay. In consultation with Ms. Darby, as they are all interrelated and affecting the same addresses, we can take a consolidated motion on 64, 65, and 66. So effectively, colleagues, we are suspending the rules on these three. Okay, and then I guess just for proper order, Ms. Darby is asking me to read the captions.
Okay.
So that's ordinance BL 2024-449 is an ordinance to authorize building material restrictions and requirements for the proposed specific plan zoning at all the aforementioned properties. So I'm just going to leave it at that, Ms. Darby, because that's what I do elsewhere. It's on materials that are associated with the initial bill that was read into the record. And then lastly, on 66, ordinance BL 2024-450, this is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County by canceling a portion of the planned unit development overlay district located at 5244 Hickory Hollow Parkway, approximately 960 feet northwest of Bell Road, 17.69 acres. Okay, so now we have got all three of those bills read into the record. I presume there is no objection to suspension of the rules on all three of them. Seeing none, the rules are suspended on all three of these bills. Go ahead, Ms. Stiles, for a consolidated motion.
Thank you very much. I would like to approve all three bills. These are all the lots that are involved in the global mall.
Is there a second for approval of all three of these bills on first reading? Okay, back to you for an explanation. Go ahead.
These are all properties that are involved in the global mall revitalization. So we need to change this from the shopping center zoning to SP so we can do all the things that are in the plan that we announced back in August. So I would appreciate your approval.
Okay. There is a motion to approve all of these bills on first reading related to the global mall, properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay. Agenda items 64, 65, and 66 have passed first reading. Okay. So that concludes items on first reading. And so now we are on to late bills, late filed bills, section O of the agenda. So O1 is Sponsor Stiles, is an ordinance approving 3 option agreements authorizing the purchase of properties for a new elementary school in Antioch, Tennessee. Okay, Ms. Stiles, I'm coming to you for a request on the suspension of the rules. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, I would like to suspend the rules, Vice Mayor, please.
Okay, so I'm going to recognize Vice Chair of Rules, Mr. Prep T. You're recognized, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee considered the late filed nature of this bill and voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for approval.
For
suspending the rules.
suspension of the rules and nature of the emergency. Okay. All right. Okay. So having heard the report of the vice chair, are there any objections to the suspension of the rules? Okay. Seeing none, the rules are suspended. Okay. So I'm back to you, Chair Stiles.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. So this is the bill that we originally heard that was a resolution. Now we're doing it
Ms.
properly.
Stiles, I need
committee
a
reports
motion.
are- Motion
To
Can we
approve
please
on
move
first
to
reading.
approve these on first reading.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Now it's back to you for an explanation. Go ahead.
This was originally the resolution where there was a back and forth as to how we purchase property, and so deferred it, then withdrew it so we can do it properly. So this is on first reading for the purchase of that land to move forward.
Okay, thank you. There is a motion to approve, properly seconded. Is there any discussion for the motion to approve this ordinance on first reading? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this ordinance has passed first reading. Okay, next, under our Section O of late filed bills, sponsor Spain is O number 2. This is an ordinance amending Section 17.04.06 of the Metropolitan Code, zoning regulations to amend the definitions of commercial amusement inside and commercial amusement outside. Okay, so Mr. Spain, it's to you to request a committee report on the nature of the late file and the suspension of the rules.
Thank you, Madam President. I request a committee report.
Okay, Vice Chair Prep T, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The Rules, Confirmations, and Public Election Committee considered the late filed nature of this bill and voted 2 in favor, 2 against in relation to suspending of the rules.
Okay, so having heard the report of the Rules Committee, is there any objection to the suspension of the? Okay, I apologize. So, Mr. Spain, you need to make a motion now, once we have our report, to suspend the rules, please, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to suspend the rules to consider this item.
Okay. So with that motion and having heard the report of the chair, are there any objections to the suspension of the rules? Okay, seeing none, the rules are suspended. And so it is back to you, Mr. Spain.
Thank you, Madam President. I move approval with a brief comment.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. Mr. Spain has moved approval on first reading. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate the body's indulgence on letting us hear this item on first reading. This is in response to a situation that came to my attention, less than 24 hours prior to our filing deadline. So I appreciate the body letting us move forward. This is an attempt to provide some clarity to the types of projects that are allowed by special exception in residential areas. There's some ambiguity in those definitions that has led to some inconsistent rulings on what types of projects can be allowed in residential areas if they're approved by the BZA. The zoning administrator and the members of the BZA have stated that they would like more clarity from the council. Our current ordinances don't contemplate many of the types of projects that are coming before them now, and there's just simply a lot of gray area, and they're having to make a determination on these things without a lot of guidance from us. So that's what this is seeking to do. The reason for the need for expediency is I'm hoping to, with the body's permission, pass this on first reading tonight, get it to the Planning Commission for their July meeting, and bring it back to us for further consideration in August. With that, I would appreciate your favorable consideration.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Spain. So there is a motion to approve on first reading, properly seconded. You heard an explanation by the sponsor. Is anyone seeking discussion on this motion to approve on first reading? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this has passed first reading. Okay. So now we are on to bills on second reading. Okay, and first among those is agenda item 82, ordinance BL 2024-293, sponsor Evans, Porterfield, Vo, Ewing, and Gadd. Ms. Evans, you are recognized.
Thank you. Move to withdraw.
Okay, it's withdrawn. Okay. All right, this bill is withdrawn. Okay. Next is agenda item 83. This is ordinance BL 2024-343. Sponsor plural, Stiles, Coupon, Eastlick, Vo, Ewing, Swara, and Welsh. This is an ordinance to amend Chapter 2.112 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding the membership of the Metropolitan Nashville Arts Commission and the process for approving the criteria for awarding the funds. Okay, sponsor Stiles, Ms. Stiles, you are recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Okay. First, for committee report is Chair Porterfield for the report of Budget and Finance.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance considered BL 343 and voted, we considered the following amendments. We voted for Amendment 1, 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Amendment 2, 4 in favor, 3 against, 1 not voting. Amendment 3, 1 in favor, 7 against, 0 not voting. And we voted overall for a 1 meeting deferral, 7 in favor, 1 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. All right. And so next to the report of the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee, Mr. Prep-T, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. We considered BL 2024-343 and voted for a 1 meeting deferral, 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Prep-T. So Ms. Stiles, per Rule 8.1, that is a 1 meeting deferral by rule, no discussion.
Yeah,
Okay?
I'm excited.
Okay, all righty. That is deferred to our next meeting. Next is agenda item 84, ordinance BL 2024-344, sponsors Stiles, Coupon, Eastlick, Vo, Ewing, and Welsh. This is an ordinance to amend section 2.147.030 of the Metropolitan Code regarding the selection of members to the Nashville Music, Film, and Entertainment Commission. Ms. Stiles, you are recognized for your committee reports.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Let's repeat the same process. Okay. Committee reports, please.
Okay. So, Mr. Prep-T, it's to you for a report of the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee, please, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee considered BL 2024-344 and voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for a 1 meeting deferral.
Okay.
Surprise.
So per Rule 8.1, this is a 1 meeting deferral by rule. Okay. All right. So that is also deferred. Okay. Next is Agenda Item 86, Ordinance BL 2024-390. Sponsors Huffman, Bradford, Ellis, Spain, Ewing, Weiner, and Horton. This is an ordinance to amend Section 2.63.020 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to require the Office of Homeless Services to maintain an inventory of homeless service providers throughout Davidson County. Mr. Huffman, Sponsor Huffman, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Okay. I believe we already have committee reports in previously. 86? Okay, we've already got your committee reports last time, sir.
Good on that. Okay, awesome.
Okay, so it's back to you for a motion on your bill to get it before us, please.
Okay, move for approval with
Is there a second? Okay, back to you, sir.
And just a point of order really quick. We've got two amendments on here. One will not be moved, one will. I think I need to move one of those first, correct?
So the bill is now properly before us, and in your time where you are recognized, it would be appropriate for you to move to amend the bill.
Thank you for the clarification. Colleagues, I bring this bill before us tonight because we have a very serious crisis on our hands here in Nashville. Our unhoused population is growing, and unfortunately, with the recent Supreme Court ruling on Friday, it's going to grow even more. It's not going to grow for any good reason, unfortunately, but I fear that now the criminalization of homelessness here being legal will force some of the counties that surround us to essentially make homelessness illegal. Now, this is obviously an assumption that I'm making, but unfortunately, knowing our feeder counties the way that I do, I do worry about that. Now, if they do take this action, this is going to cause unhoused individuals to seek refuge in our county. And I want to be clear on something. We're never going to do that here because it's not the right thing to do. It's not the ethical thing to do. And as our population grows, it is essential that we know where the holes are regarding the services that are being provided to them. This bill, with no penalty, would require a registration process with the Office of Homeless Services for any service provider in Davidson County that provides any service to the homeless population. So, for example, if I am a service provider and I provide socks and shoes to a specific area, I would register with the Office of Homeless Services and I would list socks and shoes, for an example. And the reason that I bring this bill to you is because in my community, we had an incident last fall where there was an individual who was unhoused. He could not receive medical attention because, one, he didn't know where to turn to, and two, we didn't have the proper coverage there. He had, without going into details, a pretty serious infection. And this opened up to me that we don't have our eyes on every single corner of the needs, the potential needs that are out there. So what this does is it attempts to bring us together voluntarily in a collaborative manner to allow the Office of Homeless Services to assess those needs. This doesn't require any service provider to go from one end of the county to the next. It doesn't do anything like that. The only thing that it does is it helps us understand the data. One thing I will mention, and I will do this in 15 seconds.
Yep, Mr. Huffman, mind your time, because if you want to make your motion to amend, you're going to need to do that within.
I'm going to move that we move the, Point Evan Siegel's bill, and I ask that you support that. Thank you.
Okay. So there is a motion to approve that was properly seconded, and during the explanation and Discussion of the bill. Mr. Huffman, the primary sponsor, has offered Ms. Evan Siegel as amendment. That's amendment number 2. So is there a second on the motion to amend with amendment 2? Okay. So there is a motion to amend this bill. It's properly seconded. So now we are on discussion of the amendment. And Ms. Evan Siegel, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I am urging my colleagues to support this amendment. We want to make sure that our incredible community of support services providers are comfortable with this process going forward. I'm only going to talk for like 30 minutes, but I can wait for you to reset it.
Yeah, no, we're on the motion to amend now. So you have the time.
Yeah.
Ms. Evan Siegel.
You don't have to time me though, because I promise not to.
No, it does not have to happen within the time frame of Mr. Huffman's time.
So I want to make sure that we hear their concerns and that we are able to address their concerns in compiling this information and making sure that they know that it is not mandatory. We are asking them to engage in a collaborative process so that we can better provide services. And I'm also mindful that we are a government and we cannot discriminate against people based on their religious views or their speech. And we know that while we have an incredible network of service providers here in Davidson County, there have been times that providers maybe from outside have been accused of maybe not being great actors. And since we would have to maintain their information as well, I just want to make sure that we are being very, very clear to the public that we do not endorse the activities on the list, that we haven't vetted it, and that we haven't done any judgment when it comes to that list, so that we're not inadvertently giving legitimacy to organizations that we as a body do not feel comfortable supporting.
Okay, we are on the motion to amend. Mr. Coupin, are you seeking to be recognized on amendment 2? Yes? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you so much. I rise in support of this amendment as well. My understanding is that it's being done in collaboration with the sponsor. I think it adds some clarification to the bill that I know some of the providers had wanted. And in the spirit of collaboration, which is what I believe this bill is doing, I rise in support of this amendment. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Welsh, are you seeking to be recognized on the motion to amend? Okay, all right. Mr. Parker, are you seeking to be recognized on the amendment? Okay. Ms. Hancock, on the amendment or the bill? Okay, Mr. Horton? Same. Okay. All right. Seeing no one else seeking to be recognized on the motion to amend that was properly made and seconded by Mr. Huffman, all in favor of Amendment 2, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, so we are back to you, Mr. Huffman, for a motion on your bill as amended.
I'd like to move for approval on the bill as amended.
Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. Now, Ms. Welsh, you are recognized for the motion to approve the bill as amended with Amendment 2.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I actually rise in opposition to this bill. I don't think that this registry is necessary, number one, and I don't think it's not collaboration, just having a registry. Many of the organizations that are already out there working on with our homeless population are small organizations. They are housed in houses and in churches. The registry can open them up to people just simply showing up on their doorstep. Most of these organizations are actually doing outreach, not inreach, and that's not as the way that you actually access the services. This is not going to stop people from serving the homeless on their own. I know there's been a lot of concern about people who are bringing supplies and things to the homeless in various neighborhoods. This registry will not stop people from bringing things to the homeless population. It will not It will not get trash cleaned up. It will not actually do anything. And I think it gives a false sense that somehow these organizations work for Metro, and they don't. the COC and the Homelessness Planning Council are separate organizations from Metro. We received a letter earlier this evening on our desks from the executive director of the Office of Homelessness Services that kind of implied that Metro was actually in charge of the COC and the Homelessness Planning Council. Neither the COC nor the Homelessness Planning Council discussed this bill at all. The Office of Homelessness Services really shouldn't have mentioned them at all in a letter because that is against their rules. It's unnecessary. There is already an interactive map of providers that is actually on the Office of Homelessness Services website that apparently they're unaware of. This was put together several years ago and published against the will of people in the community because of the possibility of people coming to them looking for services, and that's not the way that you actually access services within the city. If we wanted to continue something like that, the list that's already up there could be updated. This is just really unnecessary, and I think it gives a false impression of how services need to be provided as if they all need to go through Metro first, and that is not how it works here in this city. That's not how the COC works. That's not how the Homelessness Planning Council works. So I ask my colleagues to vote in opposition to this bill. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Parker, you are recognized on the bill as amended.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And I share a lot of Councilmember Welsh's concerns about this. When we're hearing from service providers who are on the ground that they are uncomfortable with something that we're doing in the homelessness space, that carries a lot of weight for me. Those folks are doing incredible work to keep people fed, keep people from being exposed to the elements, and to eventually get them into housing, ultimately get them into housing. But it's difficult work. I've gone out with service providers and connected with people, and I'm just not confident that this, introducing a layer of bureaucracy and kind of accounting for what it is that folks are taking out to people and what people are providing people, I don't see that helping our situation. There's also a perception out in the community that I'm very concerned about, where folks seem to think that this registry, this service provider registry, would give an ability to, like the socks example, if socks were found left unaccounted for in a park or something, that this registry would be able to use to find out who had been distributing socks in this zip code, and then go back and I guess hold an organization accountable. And maybe there's no mechanism for that, for Metro to do that, but folks in the community might make that connection and feel that there's some mechanism for accountability there to say, you have to stop giving out socks or come clean up these socks. Or I'm uncomfortable with adding a layer of bureaucracy in that relationship that our service providers are doing to provide really critical support for people who are looking for protection from the elements, who are trying to stay fed and ultimately get housed. I don't see how a layer of bureaucracy is helpful there, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to vote against this.
Next, Mr. Horton, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I rise in support of this bill. Our city has a shamefully large and growing homeless population. And as the sponsor indicated, we face the chance of it beginning to grow even faster. A rate against that is a woefully inadequate array of resources that the city has provided. So we need to be very smart with the resources that we do have. And that's what this bill allows us to do, is to be smart and coordinate and make the best use of those resources that we do have. And I think, to the concern that this list may imply a Metro endorsement or vetting of the service providers, I think that's addressed by Councilmember Evan Siegel's very thoughtful amendment that would require that this book clearly state that they have not been vetted or not endorsed by Metro. And to the point that this adds a burden or bureaucracy to service providers, The amendment also clearly states that nothing in this shall be construed as requiring someone to register. So I ask you to vote in favor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coupin, on the bill as amended, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. Housing is a human right, and our unhoused neighbors are our constituents too. And I know many in this body are supportive of the work that so many of our small organizations, as Councilman Parker referred to, are doing and what they're doing out in the field. And I know I've been out with a number of these groups, and I'm just cannot put into words how thankful I am for the work and the efforts that they put forward, and would never want to do something to jeopardize their safety or their success. And I've heard the concerns that this may be used as a tool against them. And if that does become the case, I stand ready to revisit this and make changes or make adjustments as needed to make sure that's not the case. But I do rise in support of this matter. I'm at times will get a request or a concern or a question about a service provider in the downtown area, and currently I have no way of knowing who that is or how I can connect with them, how I can provide them support or guidance. And so I rise in support of this matter. I think that I appreciate that the sponsor heard some of the community concerns. He supported Councilmember Evan Siegel's amendment. He didn't move his other amendment. I think the sponsor has demonstrated that he's listening to these community concerns. And I think that this is something that we can pass and we can support. And again, if there are problems that arise from it, as a body, we have the right and the ability to respond and adjust accordingly. And again, I don't want this to come across as a way to stop these organizations. Rather, to me, it's a way to support and understand who's where and who's supporting and where there are holes in the system, so we can continue to support our unhoused neighbors who need us most. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Benedict, on the bill as amended, go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I want to tell a story. Madison has the second highest population of the unhoused community in the city of Nashville. You know, yeah, it's that. So we have a huge problem with helping people find housing in the Madison area, an area that 5 different council members represent and are very familiar with. I originally was leaning in support of this, but due to some of the concerns that were already brought up, I'm not in favor of it now, and I would encourage my colleagues to vote it down. But I want to tell the story of an organization with whom I was working in the Madison area, and we got together a group of probably 20 different organizations, and they in that community know every single unhoused person in that community, and they know how to work amongst each other, and they don't need the city to step in and help manage that for them. A city resource is a public resource. It becomes publicly accessible by anybody. And these private organizations in the community are managing through this, and they're managing it without the need for us to step in and give oversight to it. So I do think it is a layer of not just red tape, not just something that is. My fear is that this could be used in a nefarious way if put in the wrong hands at some time in the future. I just don't think it's a tool. I think the cost, the potential costs outweigh the benefits. And so I have concern that if we put something like this together, it's going to be hard to undo. It's then out there. It then can be used to find people directly in the community. And I've been out in the community. I know a number of my colleagues in Madison have been out to many encampments and met many of the people in the community. And my goal is to make sure that every one of my constituents, whether they're housed or unhoused, is safe and protected. And I just don't think that that's what this bill will provide them. And so I would encourage my colleagues to vote against it. Thank you.
Ms. Stiles, are you seeking to speak on the bill? Okay, go ahead. You're recognized.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I'm standing in support of the sponsor as well. I think in appreciating that we have organizations that are doing the work, that are working with the homeless, if they're working with us, And there are so many other issues that have come up where we've been asking for accountability and we've been asking for reporting to know what people are doing. I don't think this is a layer of red tape. This is a layer of accountability. So if we're working with them all together, I think it makes sense, particularly because of the ruling that just took place. We will see an influx because I think, to Councilmember Huffman's point, the counties that decide to make homelessness illegal, they're going to come here because this is going to be a safe place. And so it is good to know who is distributing, when are they distributing. It's not about holding something over someone's head in a negative way. It's just accountability to know what they're giving out, just so we can know, oh, if this group is giving out 100 and this group is giving out 300, yay, we know that 400, hats or jackets or whatever has been handed out. I don't think that is the wrong thing to do when our job is about accountability. So I hope that colleagues will vote in support of this intention to be helpful.
Okay, Ms. Gadd, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I have I originally signed on to sponsor or to this legislation, thinking this was coming from the Office of Homeless Services as a need that they have. I've spoken with the sponsor, and I know that he's worked a whole lot on this and the issues within his district. That I know everyone has unique issues in their districts, and I appreciate his willingness to defer and to continue to have conversations, and his willingness to accept our colleague's amendment, which I do think improves the bill. So thank you so very much. I think with the adoption of the new amendment, if my recollection is correct, it will not include the zip codes for that area or for the areas throughout the district. So it'll make some of those changes, which I think relieve some of the concerns that's been lifted up. As I've spoken with the sponsor, what we'd also do is ask that we have a report from the Office of Homeless Services in 6 months to see how this is going. I've looked on their website to see the list of the organizations that they already have listed there. And some of the organizations, or one of the organizations that's reached out to me, and like many of us, we've been involved with certain organizations for a long time and done those outreach. I want to just talk about, when we talk about collaboration, that is something that we typically cannot legislate collaboration with the communities. Where collaboration comes when it comes to the government entity, it has to start with trust. And if there's a breakdown in trust with the Office of Homeless Services that is already that's not experiencing, I definitely extend myself, and I think other colleagues will extend themselves too if there's any issues there. I think bringing folks together for collaborative efforts really takes trust. And then once you have that trust built, then you can collaborate with each other to truly make sure that we're providing the services. I think we all know that through collaborative decision-making, that's the only way we are able to do that. With this, I do appreciate the intent with my colleagues' bill, and I will support it, especially with this amendment. But I'll be looking to others as well to continue the conversations to see how we build that trust and continue to improve the access that our unhoused neighbors need throughout the year. Thank you so much.
Okay, Councilwoman Suara, seeking to be recognized. Okay.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. When I first read the bill, I honestly thought this is a great idea because I think it would be a good thing to have a place to be able to refer people to, where everything is in one place and you can actually see the services that are needed. As the sponsor said, we have a growing population, and one of the problems is you don't even know where to send people to. And so having a list will be something that will be very helpful to make sure that people get the services that they need. The reason why I will not be supporting it anymore is because I actually did go after Councilmember Wedge spoke. I went to the website, and there's actually a list on the website that has the resources list. It has a mainstream resources contact list, it has coordinated entry contact list. It has a lot of lists of people that are providing services already. And so I think this is already being done. It's just a question of, and I don't know if the sponsor will be willing to defer and then work with them to see what is missing from this list that needs to be added. But if they've already compiled a list of service providers, we just need to do a better job of knowing the list exists and to be able to disseminate that list to people that need it. So we don't need to start a new list. We just need to work with the list that we have. So with that, I don't think it's necessary because I think it's reinventing the wheel. It could be updated, it could be changed, but it's not a new list because there is a list already on the website. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Porterfield?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I am rising in opposition to the legislation. I do want to thank the sponsor for his hard work on this, and I do believe that his heart is in the right place with this. So I do want to acknowledge, I believe that the sponsor worked very hard on this and wants to do something to support an issue that he's seeing in his community. I agree with some of the sentiments that were expressed by Councilor Welsh and Councilmember Parker that our current, that some of the service providers that we are seeing outside that service our unhoused and unsheltered communities have lots of concerns with this. I also wanted to talk a little bit about Councilor Soror, and I believe Councilwoman Welsh mentioned that we do have some resources already. You can Google where to turn in Nashville, WTTIN.org. And there's an amazing list of resources, and it's broken down from urgent needs to health and wellness, to family and pets, to specialized assistance, and to places where people can get help, they can get work, they can get connected. And if they don't have the ability to look at this digital guide, maybe they don't have a phone or internet service, they could get a printed copy from the Downtown Presbyterian Church. And I know a lot of our unhoused neighbors are familiar with many of these resources. I've had the opportunity to speak with some of our unhoused neighbors and some of our unhoused constituents, and I do know that they appreciate the work that many of these organizations are doing. And I just share some of the concerns that have already been lifted up. So again, thank you to the sponsor for his work on it, but I will be voting against it.
Okay. Ms. Campbell, are you also seeking to be recognized? Okay,
Thank you,
go
Vice
ahead.
Mayor. Call to question.
Okay. Ms. Gamble has called the previous question. Is there a second? Okay. This is a non-debatable motion. It requires 2/3 of those voting. I think let's try it by voice to start. If you are in favor of ending debate and moving to the vote, you would vote aye. And if you want to continue debate on the bill, you will vote no. Okay, so all in favor of the motion to call the question, please say aye. Aye. Okay, any voting no? Okay, the motion to call the question prevails, and we are now moving to the vote. Okay, I think, Mr. Clerk, let's just go ahead and do this on the machine, please. Okay, the motion that is before us is a motion to approve on second of 3 readings, as amended with Amendment 2 from Ms. Evans Siegel. It's so squeaky now every time I move. Okay, all votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Okay, the motion passes on the second of 3 readings. Okay. Moving next to agenda item 87. This is ordinance BL 2024-426, sponsor Kimbrough. This is an ordinance amending section 15.64.140 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws pertaining to the review of a grading permit and drainage plan. Ms. Kimbrough, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think it was deferred in committee.
Okay, but you'll need to ask for your committee reports so we can
committee
recognize
reports,
that.
please.
And then, Chair Parker, you're recognized for the report of the Transportation Infrastructure Committee.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We recommended a 1-meeting deferral, 12 in favor, 0 against.
Okay, with a 12 in favor, none against, unanimous vote of the committee for a 1-meeting deferral per Rule 8.1. That is a mandatory deferral by rule of 1 meeting. Okay, so that ordinance will be deferred on second reading. Second reading will be deferred to the next meeting.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Sure. Okay. 89, agenda item 89, ordinance BL 2024-428, sponsors Coupin, Porterfield, and Allen. This is an ordinance approving, ratifying, and adopting Chapter 68 of the Private Acts of 2024, authorizing the establishment of an East Bank Development Authority. Sponsor Coupin, you are recognized, sir.
I believe I would like committee reports.
Okay, that is correct. Ms. Porterfield, Chair of Budget and Finance, on Mr. Coupin's bill regarding the East Bank Development Authority, Bill 428.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance voted for 1-meeting deferral, 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, with a unanimous vote for a 1-meeting deferral per Rule 8.1. This is a mandatory deferral by rule of 1 meeting, Mr. Coupin. Okay, this is deferred to our next meeting. Next is agenda item 90, ordinance BL 2024-429, sponsors Porterfield, Evans, Welsh, and GAD. This is an ordinance approving a contract between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County and Concentra Health Services, Inc. for the provision of medical services to employees who have sustained occupational injuries. Sponsor Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports. Budget and Finance voted 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for approval.
Okay, and Chair Evans for the report of Public Health and Safety, please.
Thank you. We recommended approval, 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, and so it's back to you, Ms. Porterfield, for a motion.
Move for approval.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, Ms. Suara? You're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I have 2 questions. So in looking at the analysis for this bill, my question to the administration, or whoever can answer it, 1, I noticed that the value went up from 4 million from the last provider to 7 million now. And I was just trying to ask why that jump from last year to this year. And then the second one, which is also important, is that I noticed that the provider is from Texas. And so for a community that has a lot of healthcare providers that have a contract with Metro and all of that, why are we paying $7 million to an outside company to provide services for Metro employees that are injured on duty?
Okay, Ms. Suarez, you address that question to me, and then I will recognize the administration. Ms. Wiggins, you're recognized for the Finance Department to answer those questions. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Each contract was 5 years. So the previous contract was 4 million. The new contract is 7 million. It does expand the services that are provided to the Metro employees, including physicals.
So the addition of the
there's additional services included in this contract that weren't in the other.
And is this the type of contract that it's not a set amount that we pay them, is a fee for services? So we only pay as we use it, so we don't pay the full 7 million if they do not see enough patients?
Ms. Wiggins?
I believe that is the case.
Okay.
I will have to confirm that. The other question that you asked about an out-of-state
Counselor?
provider, so the clinic is here locally. So it is the RFQ went out to all providers. So anybody locally, like a headquartered here could have bid, but this was the bid that won.
Okay, so they were the only one that responded to the bid? pretty much.
No, but they are the one that was,
Chosen.
it was a
Okay, yeah, there were
competitive bid.
two,
And yeah, it was a competitive bid and they were chosen.
Does that answer your questions, Ms. Suara?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Porterfield, it's back to you.
I would like to move for approval with a brief comment.
Okay. Do we not already have a motion to approve before us?
We do.
Okay,
I didn't
so
know
you're
if I needed to renew my motion
You
or not.
don't
I
have
don't.
to.
Okay.
No, ma'am.
I believe I have an answer to Council Lady Suarez' question. Well, it looks like administration also has an answer.
Yep, I'm happy to go back to the administration at Sponsor Porterfield's request to respond to Ms. Suarez's question. Go ahead, Ms. Wiggins.
It is IDIQ, which means we only pay for what the services that we use.
And Ms. Wiggins, can you tell everyone in the public what the acronym IDIQ is?
Indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity.
Okay. Thank you. Gotta explain those acronyms. All right, Ms. Porterfield, so what is before us is a motion to approve that is properly seconded. I see no one else in the queue for discussion. Is there anything else you would like to say on the bill? Okay, just renewing that motion. All right. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, that has passed on, where are we? Second reading. Okay. All right. Next, then, we are moving into bills on third reading that were not on consent. Okay. First among those are agenda item 102 and 103. They are companion bills to each other. 102 is ordinance BL 2024-271, sponsor Toombs. This is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County by changing from CS to SP zoning for property located at 316 Homestead Road, approximately 240 feet north of South Ridge Drive, 1.56 acres, to permit 23 multifamily residential units, all of which is described herein, and the companion bill regarding the materials for that same ordinance or property. Let's see, Ms. Toombs, you are recognized. Oh, I'm sorry, press the button, but it didn't. There you go. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I actually have the first four items, and I'm going to defer one meeting, all four.
Okay, so not going to move any amendments or substitutes or anything. You're just going to defer. And so your intent is to defer 102, 103.
104.
Those have been read into the record. 104 is ordinance BL 2024-317. Also sponsor Toombs. That is an ordinance to amend Title 17 in the Metropolitan Code of Laws, the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County by changing from RS10 to SP zoning for properties located at 2840 and 2842 Buena Vista Pike, approximately 58 feet east of Mike Shill's Court, 3.53 acres to permit 46 multifamily residential units. And then Ms. Toombs, also the sponsor of agenda item 105, ordinance BL 2024-318, which is the companion bill to 104 regarding materials. So it is back to you, Ms. Toombs, for a consolidated motion on all four of those bills.
Move for a 1 meeting deferral.
Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. Ms. Toombs has moved 1 meeting deferral for agenda items 102, 103, 104, and 105. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, that concludes all the items on the agenda. Our next council meeting will be on Tuesday, July 16th. Is there a motion to adjourn? Okay, we are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.